Chapter 2139. In Kuan Ling's territory, the giant rhinoceros clansmen stared blankly at their leader, Ku Dun. They were in a good mood when they saw him roaring loudly. Although they didn't know the reason, they still roared together. In a split second, the earth trembled violently as their aura soared into the sky. 1018. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the giant rhinoceros clan's clansmen. He was very satisfied. The giant rhinoceros clan was not considered a clan with a particularly strong bloodline in the God-fallen world, but it was not bad. An adult giant rhinoceros clan expert could reach the standard of a deity expert. Their strongest point was naturally their defense, and they also had the innate ability Light Rhinoceros Horn. The Light Rhinoceros Horn contained a secret technique of the Tao of Laws. It was bestowed by the heavens. With the stupidity of the giant rhinoceros clan, it was impossible for them to comprehend the laws, let alone cultivate the secret techniques of the laws. The only thing they could do was to conform to the laws of heaven and earth. When they cultivated, they would constantly absorb the light energy with their horns to strengthen themselves. Simply put, the light rhinoceros horn is an all of laws. Lin Feng's current law realm was extremely high, so he naturally understood it. It was originally a mini-rule all, but as the light energy was absorbed, the light rhinoceros horn would gradually transform into a complete rule all. When the giant rhinoceros clan expert became a divine spirit expert, the light rhinoceros horn would condense into a complete rule all. It's stronger than the blood-sucking beast's innate ability. Lin Feng nodded. The blood-sucking beast still needed to comprehend it on its own. Only when it reached the level of a deity would it be bestowed with the gift of heaven, forming the All of Law. However, the giant rhinoceros clan already had an All of Laws, so they only needed to absorb energy to strengthen themselves. As such, the strength of the giant rhinoceros clan's bodies was rather terrifying. They had been nurtured by the great path of light since birth, and had an all of laws as their core. The light rhino horn and the blood-maned beast horn are indeed very similar. The sovereign blood bamboo horn has a complete 100,000 origin realm experts, and so does the light rhino's horn. There's also a secret technique for the 100,000 origin realm expert. 100,000 origins secret technique. Lin Feng naturally did not lack any. There were too many secret techniques recorded in the myriad heaven path, and all of them were top-notch secret techniques in the universe. However, it was precisely because of this that these secret techniques were difficult to understand and cultivate. His way of the dark demon had reached the origin realm a long time ago, but he did not understand a single one of the tens of thousands of secret techniques in the myriad heaven way, let alone practice them. It was like a swordsman who had just learned a basic sword technique and wanted to learn the best sword technique in the world. Furthermore, these sword techniques were the most difficult ones among the top sword technique. It was difficult to enter the door. Actually, right now, ordinary 100,000 origins secret techniques are enough for me. Lin Feng smiled faintly. In addition to what he had gained this time, he now had 5 God Spirit Light Rhinoceros horns, which meant that he had 5 100,000 origins secret technique. It might not be enough to deal with the top God-level masters in the universe, but it was enough here in the God-fallen world. For example, among the top 10 experts on the Origin Awakener rankings, only 2 or 3 had reached the Origin realm. Most importantly, he did not need to cultivate these 5 secret techniques. He only needed to refine the Divine Spirit Light Rhinoceros Horn to quickly master them. The Divine Spirit Light Rhinoceros Horn itself contained 100,000 Tao of origins. The 5 God Spirit Light Rhinoceros Horns are the Tao of Light Speed, Tao of Light Halo, Tao of Brilliant Light, Tao of Light Halo, and Tao of Light. I'm still missing the Divine Light Rhinoceros Horn of the Tao of Light and the Tao of Light. Just like the Sovereign Blood Bamboo Horn, the 6 paths of light also lack 2 paths. It would take some time to comprehend them on his own. Let's go back and carry out the pig rearing plan. Lin Feng thought for a moment and made a decision. Return to the giant rhinoceros valley. The majestic giant rhinoceros clan held their heads high and looked awe-inspiring. In this region, they were the absolute kings. Apart from the Kunling clan, the other clans were nothing to be afraid of. Thousands of giant rhinoceros clan experts with defenses comparable to god-level masters were enough to give any force a headache. With the giant rhinoceros clan's strength, they could take over several territories. However, having too many territories was not very useful. After all, there were only so many clansmen, and each territory had its own characteristic. For example, the Kunling clan's territory was not very useful even if they took it over. The giant rhinoceros clan is located in the southwest region of the God-fallen world. They can barely squeeze into the top 10 clans. After his clone devoured Ku Dun's soul, Lin Feng's understanding of the God-fallen world had deepened. After all, Ku Dun had been cultivating for a long time, and he was the leader of the clan. His inheritance and experience were extraordinary. The talents of the giant rhinoceros clan members were almost the same because they did not walk the path of Tao comprehension. Instead, they relied on their horns to absorb light energy to increase their strength. The lower limit was good, but the upper limit was not high either. Strength came from absorbing and accumulating over a long period of cultivation. This was also why there were only 2 blood-sucking beast kings, but Tinua was stronger than Ku Dun. However, that was then and this is now. Now that my soul dominates Ku Dun's body, there are no flaws in any aspect. Lin Feng was confident that he could raise the giant rhinoceros clone to a high-level God realm expert in a short time. In the God-fallen world, only by becoming a high-level God spirit powerhouse could one be considered a powerhouse. So, the God-fallen world does have top-level God realm experts. Lin Feng exclaimed inwardly. Moreover, the number of top-level God realm experts was not small. Ku Dun alone knew of 5 of them. In terms of the number of God realm experts, the turbulent void region has more. After all, the region is vast. But in terms of the number of God realm experts and top-level fighting power, the God-fallen world is the strongest among the 3 forces. The characteristics of the God-fallen world have long been determined. In the turbulent void region, it was easy to become a God realm expert, but difficult to become a God realm expert. Although the God-fallen world was small, the energy of heaven and earth was abundant. It gave the various races powerful innate abilities, making it much easier to become a God realm expert. The weakest of the 3 forces was the Origin Awakened continent. Whether it was God realm experts or God realm experts, they were few in number. But not necessarily. Every Origin Awakened continent expert has gone through countless trials and tribulations in the Origin Awakened continent. Not only are they experienced and have abundant means, but most importantly, they are much smarter than the races and special life forms in the God-fallen world in the turbulent void region. Lin Feng smiled. Including himself. Who would have known that the famous expert of the God-fallen world, Ku Dun, had already been possessed by him? Lin Feng came to the giant Rhino Valley from the Kunling territory. This place was filled with the element of light and was a treasured land in itself. It was overflowing with the characteristics of heaven and earth. Moreover, it was occupied by the giant rhinoceros clan who possessed the giant rhinoceros horn of light. Over the countless years, the giant rhinoceros valley had been imperceptibly influenced and changed. The current giant rhinoceros valley was already perfect and flawless. I'll settle down here temporarily and slowly cultivate while waiting for the next meteorite vortex to appear. Lin Feng closed his eyes and clearly felt the rich light energy here. He felt comfortable and satisfied. His main body and avatar were both stationed here. The avatar Ku Dun was the leader of the giant Rhino clan. If it wanted to bring a human youth into the giant Rhino Valley, the other clansmen would not object. They did not have much ability to think and followed Ku Dun's lead. Controlling a clan like this was the easiest. Let's carry out the pig-rearing plan and pick 2. Lin Feng stepped into the valley. Chapter 2140. The giant rhinoceros clan's cultivation method was simple. They relied on their horns to absorb energy from heaven and earth through the Law All. The Law All was like a pyramid. It would automatically absorb energy from heaven and earth in an endless stream. If the giant rhinoceros clan deliberately provided energy, the absorption rate would be much faster. The giant rhinoceros valley was several times larger than the insect spirit race's territory. The giant rhinoceros clan's strength was also stronger, the territory they occupied was much larger, and their living conditions were also better. Other than a residential area that could not be damaged by meteorites, milky white giant rhinoceros crystal ores were buried everywhere in the giant rhinoceros valley. Every giant rhinoceros horn can evolve into a crystal mine. Lin Feng raised his saber and slashed it down, blasting a hole in the ground and easily cutting the crystal mine. Unlike the blood rhinoceros horn, the giant rhinoceros horn was still useful even if it belonged to an ordinary immortal realm expert because it was a mini-law all. Every giant rhinoceros clan member's death would have their giant rhinoceros horn buried in the giant rhinoceros valley. As time passed, the giant rhinoceros horn would absorb the energy of light and meteorites to form giant rhinoceros crystal ores. Lin Feng held the giant rhinoceros crystal ores in his hand. This was just the tip of the iceberg. There were tens of millions of such giant rhinoceros crystal ores. Although the giant rhinoceros clan did not have a large population, with only a little over 1,000 of them, they had a long history. Over the years, the number of giant rhinoceros horns buried in the giant rhinoceros valley had exceeded 10 million. The giant rhinoceros crystal ores could be divided and absorbed, but the giant rhinoceros horn itself would not be destroyed. An adult giant rhinoceros clan expert's physical defense could reach the threshold of immortal realm, and the giant rhinoceros horn was even tougher. Even if the god-fallen world's meteorites hit it head-on, it could not shatter. The giant rhinoceros clan's talent and resources are really good. Lin Feng sighed softly. With the amount of giant rhinoceros crystal ores in the giant rhinoceros valley, it was enough to produce over 100 giant rhinoceros god experts. Even if they were just ordinary immortal realm experts, their lineup was already terrifying enough. After all, the defense of an ordinary deity giant rhinoceros was comparable to that of a novice deity. However, this method was like killing the golden eggs. The giant rhinoceros horn buried underground didn't condense crystal ores very quickly. It was usually calculated in terms of epoch. One epoch would probably only condense a fingernail-sized piece of giant rhinoceros crystal Oregon. After that, there would be nothing left. Moreover, even if there were hundreds of ordinary giant rhinoceroses, it would not be of much use to the giant rhinoceros clan. In the face of top-tier deities, even high-tier deities, they could easily kill them one by one. The most important thing for a race was its top-tier deities. However, it wasn't a bad idea for him to carry out his pig-rearing plan. Find 2 giant rhinoceroses whose horns are the Tao of Light and Tao of Light. They are the giant rhinoceroses who are the closest to becoming deities. Lin Feng had already arranged for Ku Dun's avatar to choose. The giant rhinoceros horn's attribute was hereditary, and there were members of the 6 paths of light. There were more than 100 members of the giant rhinoceros clan who cultivated the path of radiance and the path of light. It was easy to choose. Absorb giant rhinoceros crystal ore. In less than 100 years, these 2 giant rhinos will reach God Spirit level and become God Spirit giant rhino horns. Lin Feng smiled. When the time came, he would directly take the horn of the giant rhinoceros. 100,000 sources of the 6 paths of light would all be gathered. Ku Dun is now very close to becoming a high-tier deity. If he absorbs a large amount of the giant rhinoceros crystal mine, it should be enough for him to break through, Lin Feng estimated. There seemed to be a lot of crystal mines in the giant rhinoceros valley, enough for 100 members of the giant rhinoceros clan to become gods, but that was only for ordinary deities. If an ordinary deity were to become a low-tier deity, the energy of the crystal mines would only be enough to provide a dozen of them. If a low-tier deity were to become a mid-tier deity, the energy required would be at most 1 or 2. It was far from enough for a mid-tier deity to become a high-tier deity. However, Ku Dun was already at the limit of mid-tier deity. The energy required to become a high-tier deity was much less. It would be enough to consume half or even 2/3 of the stock. Such consumption was extravagant and was not good for the giant rhinoceros clan. However, Lin Feng did not care. What he wanted was the present. What did the future of the giant rhinoceros clan have to do with him? If Ku Dun's avatar could really become a high-tier deity, it would be worth it even if the entire giant rhinoceros clan was annihilated, let alone consuming a small amount of crystal mines in the giant rhinoceros valley. A high-tier deity and a clone of the giant rhinoceros clan that was good at defense. At this moment, it was extremely important. If I can really succeed, I can do whatever I want in the God-fallen world. Lin Feng smiled slightly and started his plan. The giant rhinoceros valley stood aloof from worldly affairs. The other clans would not have any ideas about the giant rhinoceros clan. The giant rhinoceros clan could do whatever they wanted in this region. In the southwest region of the God-fallen world, they could barely squeeze into the top 10. As for the tyrannical special life forms in the God-fallen world, they would normally not attack these clans, especially the honest giant rhinoceros clan. The experts of the Origin Awakened Continent and the Turbulent Void were even more fearful of the various clans in the God-fallen world. They avoided them as far as they could. The pig-rearing plan was very successful. One of the 2 giant rhinoceros clan members spent 56 years and 77 years to become a deity. They contributed 2 giant rhinoceros horns to Lin Feng. In addition to the previous 5 horns, Lin Feng now had a total of 7 giant rhinoceros horns. Not only did he complete the 6 paths of light, but the 7 giant rhinoceros horns also contained 7 secret arts of light. Although they were only ordinary secret arts, they were bestowed by the heavens, so they could not be too bad. At the very least, they were orthodox secret arts. He was in no hurry to refine the giant rhinoceros horn. Lin Feng finished refining the sovereign blood main horn first. The 2 conflicted with each other, so it was impossible to refine them at the same time. The dark demonic inscriptions flickered. Lin Feng's presence of darkness became stronger once again. His skin rippled like water. His entire person seemed to have become illusory. His presence was like an unfathomable wave. Within his body, another sovereign blood centipede horn was formed. He had comprehended the 4th Tao of 100,000 origins, the Tao of dark matter. Lin Feng opened his eyes and smiled. After a long period of seclusion, he had finally raised the Tao of dark matter to 100,000 origin realm experts. Once the Tao of darkness reached 100,000 origin realm experts, the Tao of annihilation and the Tao of dark matter reached 100,000 origin realm experts as easily as drawing a gourd. The sovereign blood main horn was the best all of laws. Although I don't have any secret arts, raising the Tao of dark matter to 100,000 origins can make my attacks even more ghostly and difficult to defend against. Dodging will be easier as well. It's compatible with the Tao of darkness, allowing me to create many shadows. I also have the Tao of light. The 2 Taos that specialize in speed have both reached 100,000 origin realm expert. My mastery of movement should increase very quickly. Let's see if the giant rhinoceros horn that contains the Tao of light can provide any good secret arts. Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. He had been waiting for a very long time to refine the giant rhinoceros horn. Suddenly, something doesn't seem right. Raising his head, Lin Feng's expression was somewhat surprised. Chapter 2141. Clouds and thunder rolled, and the entire sky seemed to have changed color. The elemental fluctuations in the air were particularly intense, as if they were extremely excited. There was a restless element amidst the excitement. The surging aura vaguely made people feel oppressed, as if a storm was coming. This feeling was very familiar. The meteorite vortex is coming out? Lin Feng frowned slightly. There was no anomaly before he formed the law all. He did not expect such an anomaly to appear as soon as he formed the law all. Based on the previous experience of the meteorite vortex, it took about 100 years from the appearance of the anomaly to the emergence of the meteorite vortex. However, the source of the anomaly seemed to be quite far away. I won't be able to make it in 100 years. Lin Feng quickly judged. It was normal that they would not be able to make it in time. The last time the meteorite vortex was unearthed, less than 10% of the experts came. The entire God-fallen world was divided into 9 regions: east, south, west, north, southeast, southwest, northeast, northwest, and central. The giant rhinoceros valley he was in the southwest region. Just this region alone might not be completely explored in 100 years. Based on the location of the anomaly, this meteorite vortex is in the southeast region, Lin Feng murmured softly. It was not far from where he was, but it was not close either. It would take 300 to 400 years to get there. Even if he rushed at the speed of light, he would not make it in time. It seems that I am not fated to be with this meteorite vortex. Lin Feng smiled. With his current strength, he was actually quite competitive. His original body could use the second level of the mind arrow of Kunling, and his combat power reached the limit of a low-level god. His clone, Ku Dun, was even more exaggerated. He had the strength of a mid-level god, but his defense was comparable to a high-level god. However, there was nothing he could do if he could not make it in time. If all the experts could make it in time, it would not be his turn. There were dozens of high-level god in the God-fallen world alone, and at least 5 top-level God realm experts. Continue to cultivate, refine the giant rhinoceros horn, and wait for the next meteorite vortex. Lin Feng was about to take out the giant rhinoceros horn that contained the secret method of the path of light when he was slightly startled. His eyes flashed. There seemed to be a pattern to the emergence of the meteorite vortex? Location. Yes, the location can be traced. Lin Feng searched through Ku Dun's memories. The God-fallen world had been open for more than 4,000 years. The meteorite vortexes had been unearthed one after another. They all had strange phenomena. From the strange phenomena, one could tell where the meteorite vortexes were. Ugh, I was in seclusion for a while. Lin Feng furrowed his brows and smiled. Although Ku Dun was cultivating in seclusion, the other giant rhinoceros clansmen weren't cultivating in seclusion. In this vast giant rhinoceros valley, there were more than 1,000 giant rhinoceros clansmen. There was bound to be one who noticed the anomaly. Soon, Lin Feng gathered all the clues. Sure enough, as the clues of the meteorite vortex were gathered together, the pattern was on the verge of being revealed. East, west, northwest, southwest. This one is southeast. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Including this one, there were 7 meteor vortexes that occupied the 9 regions of the God-fallen world. None of them were duplicates. That leaves the southern region and the central region. Every time the meteorite vortex appears, it takes at least 500 years to 800 years. Therefore, the next meteorite vortex will appear at least 600 years later. It will be in the southern region or the central region. The central region is a place of spatial turbulence. Races cannot survive there. It is a battlefield where godly spirit realm experts fight. If we really divide it by region, the central region is different from the other 8 regions because there are no races living there. Lin Feng analyzed carefully. If his guess was correct, the probability of the next meteorite vortex appearing in the southern region was more than 90%. I can analyze it. Those Origin Awaken list experts who have already entered the God-fallen world should be able to guess it. Lin Feng knew that the experts of the Origin Awakened continent were different from the experts of the God-fallen world and the turbulent void. They were all cunning and experienced. They could easily guess such a simple pattern. Including the experts of the God-fallen world and the special life forms of the turbulent void, a small portion of them can guess it. Maybe they are not sure, but since there are no clues to begin with, there is no harm in coming to the southern region to try. Phew, Lin Feng let out a long breath and revealed a bitter smile. So what if he found the pattern? The fight for the next meteorite vortex was destined to be terrifying. Countless experts would come. Mid-level godly spirit realm experts were not enough. Only high-level godly spirit realm experts would be able to participate. Would he be able to get it? No matter what, I have to try first. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was ignited. No matter what, the probability was higher than this meteorite vortex that he could not get his hands on. With 600 years, Ku Dun's clone might be able to level up and become a high-level godly spirit realm expert. His combat power would also increase greatly. This place is not far from the southern region. 100 years should be enough. I will cultivate for another 500 years. Let's go. Lin Feng was full of ambition. A soldier who did not want to become a general was not a good soldier. Moreover, 6 meteorite vortexes had already appeared. Including this one, there would be 7. The one after 600 years would probably be the last one. This was a great opportunity that only appeared once every 100 reincarnations in the God-fallen world. He did not want to miss it. Refining the godly spirit giant rhino horn. Lin Feng first refined the giant rhinoceros horn that contained the Tao of light speed, because he was in urgent need of battle power. Among the 6 Taos of light, only his Tao of light speed had reached 100,000 origin realm. The other 5 great Taos of light all required 100,000 origin realm experts to condense into law all. Even with the giant rhinoceros horn, it would still take some time. The refining speed was very fast. It was much easier than the supreme blood rhinoceros horn. Moreover, his Tao of light speed had already reached 100,000 origin realm expert. It was even more natural. However, this is an offensive secret technique. Lin Feng pursed his lips. The Tao of light speed secret technique in the giant rhinoceros horn was purely offensive. Its power was not bad, but it was not suitable for him. For a purely offensive secret technique, he already had a saber art. The Tao of light speed secret technique was useless. After all, this was only a basic secret technique. It was not like those powerful secret techniques with complicated heavenly might recorded in the myriad heaven Tao. What a pity! Lin Feng immediately gave up. Comprehending an offensive secret technique would undoubtedly be a waste of time. He had to seize every second of the 600 years he had to increase his strength as much as possible. My Tao of light speed and Tao of dark matter are both at 100,000 origin realm expert. The characteristics of my way of the heavens also lean towards speed. It would be great if I had a movement secret technique. Lin Feng sighed. Especially when fighting for the meteorite vortex. When the time came, it would be a chaotic battle. Movement secret techniques would be especially important. The Azure Dragon King Li Qing was only a mid-level god. However, he had relied on his outstanding movement secret techniques to snatch the meteorite vortex from the hands of so many experts, especially high-level gods. Let's try the other 6 giant rhinoceros horns. Although they are not of the Tao of light speed, there might be movement secret technique. Lin Feng was not discouraged. If there was nothing he could do about it. Just as he took out the second giant rhinoceros horn, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. There's still time. Why don't I continue with the second pig-rearing plan? Lin Feng suddenly had an idea. The corner of his mouth raised slightly. Chapter 2142. There was enough giant rhino crystal ore in the giant rhino valley, enough for over 100 giant rhinos to become god-level experts. Currently, he had only nurtured 2 of them, and the rest were for Ku Dun's clone. It was estimated that half to 2/3 of the giant rhino crystal ore would be enough for him to evolve. In other words, there was at least 1/3 of the giant rhino crystal ore left. What was the use of keeping it? The god-fallen world was just a passerby to him, let alone the giant rhino tribe. Why don't I change all of them to god spirit rhino horns? Every god-light rhinoceros horn contains a different secret technique of light. Previously, the god-light rhinoceros horn with the Tao of light speed contained an offensive secret technique. Perhaps the next god-light rhinoceros horn with the Tao of light speed contained an agility secret technique. I'll know once I try. Lin Feng immediately made the arrangements as soon as he thought of it. Ku Dun's clone had a supreme position in the giant rhino tribe, especially since he was the only god-level expert left. He ruled like a dictator. It would not be a problem even if he killed all of the giant rhino tribe, let alone just select and nurture some giant rhinos to become god-level experts. There were at least 600 years before the next meteorite vortex appeared. Deducting the 100 years needed to enter the southern region, 500 years was enough to use up all the giant rhino crystal Oregon. This was because the pig-rearing plan could be carried out at the same time. Let's try the 5 giant rhinos with the Path of Light rhino horns with the Path of Light. Lin Feng desired the Path of Light the most. His Path of Light was already at 100,000 origin realm, and it was complemented by the 100,000 origin realm Path of Dark Matter. However, he lacked a secret technique that could unleash his speed. That feeling was like a swordsman who could not find a suitable saber. Selection was easy. There were more than 200 giant rhinos with the Path of Light rhino horns with the Path of Light. It was easy to find 5 that were close to god level. While arranging for them to absorb and refine the giant rhino crystal ore, Lin Feng also began to refine the god spirit rhino horns. The Path of Brilliance. The reason why he chose to refine this path first was not because the brilliance was the most outstanding, but because the 4th move of the obscuring heavenly blade, Boundless Weight, contained the Path of Brilliance and the Path of Oblivion. I've already comprehended the Tao of Oblivion. All that's left is the Tao of Brilliance. Now that I have the doppelganger Ku Dun for defense, I can temporarily relax. Increasing my attack power is actually more important. Compared to Ashes and Tears of Chaos, Boundless Weight is a true offensive saber technique. If I can comprehend 100,000 origins in both of them, not only will I be able to comprehend the saber move, I will also be able to unleash the saber move's power to the limit. Lin Feng was unable to comprehend the relationship between the 2 of them for a long time. Thus, he decided not to dwell on it any longer. The way of radiance and the way of darkness that the Mandarin ducks not required had not reached the origin realm of 100,000. With his experience of comprehending the Ashes and Tears of Chaos, it would be much easier to comprehend the origin realm first before comprehending the blade technique. Hua, powerful energy wrapped around the god spirit light rhinoceros horn. Divine patterns of light bloomed, and Lin Feng quickly entered a state of cultivation. The light rhinoceros horn contained the brilliant light secret technique, Mi Burn, which gathered the light energy and exploded in an instant. Its might was not ordinary, especially in a group battle, where it could display a powerful might. However, it wasn't of much use to him. This secret technique was suitable for experts skilled in defense. It could be used in a war between different races or when 2 armies clashed. However, he was fast, making it difficult for him to be surrounded. Coupled with the fact that he had a group attack like Tears of Chaos, which was no weaker than a secret technique, it consumed far less energy. My ancestor's myriad obscuring heavenly blade truly is powerful. It encompasses everything. Ordinary secret techniques can't compare at all. Lin Feng was even more enlightened when he truly came into contact with the secret technique of 100,000 origins. The essence of a secret technique was to better unleash the power of 100,000 origin realm experts. However, his ancestor had actually fused the secret technique with the myriad obscuring heavenly blade long ago. The secret technique within the light rhinoceros horn was not of much use, but the Tao of 100,000 origins within was extremely useful. Compared to the sovereign bloodbane horn, the Tao of 100,000 origins within the God Spirit Light rhinoceros horn was much clearer and gentler. It lacked ruthlessness and killing intent, instead possessing a hint of warmth. The fusion was even faster. It should only take half the time of the sovereign bloodbane horn to comprehend, or even less. Lin Feng was extremely satisfied. The innate abilities of the races of the God-fallen world truly could not be compared to the races of the chaotic void. 100 years flew by. At this moment, in the southeastern region of the God-fallen world, experts from all over had gathered and were fiercely competing for the unearthed meteorite vortex. In the previous meteorite vortex, only 2 high-level gods had appeared. However, this meteorite vortex had a total of 6 high-level gods. A new record had been set. The most intense competition for the previous 6 meteorite vortexes had only involved 3 high-level gods. Faced with such a powerful lineup, all the mid-level gods were in despair. The novice gods had even lost the will to compete. This was completely beyond their strength. Damn it, our luck is too bad. It's not bad luck. There's not much left of the meteorite vortex. Sigh, let's wait for the next one. The next one? Stop dreaming. Those who can become high-level gods are not stupid. Even the 7th one is here. There will only be more coming for the 8th one. The competition was incomparably intense. 4 high-level gods from the God-fallen world and 2 high-level gods from the turbulent void were fighting each other. None of the other experts dared to interfere. It was like a duel between generals. Ordinary soldiers had no right to participate in it. The experts of the Origin Awakened continent were all staring at each other with their brows tightly knitted. Among them were Poison Rose and Dragon Emperor Jiankong. Although they had joined forces, it was useless. They might be able to deal with the forces of the Origin Awakened continent, but they were not on the same level when it came to the battle of high-level gods. Dong Wang, that coward, is not showing up. Dragon Emperor Jiankong grimaced with rage. He's smart. Poison Rose said, if we can guess where the 7th meteorite vortex is, so can he. He knows that we are waiting for him here. Why would he be so stupid to come to us? Dragon Emperor Jiankong snorted. Keep hiding if you can. Poison Rose glanced at him coldly. The human tribe of the Milky Way has the meteorite vortex. It doesn't matter if they don't fight for it. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's huge dragon tail slammed on the ground as he stared at Poison Rose. I don't care. If you want the meteorite vortex, you have to help me eradicate the human tribe of the Milky Way. Poison Rose smiled coldly. You can hide, but you can't hide. The human tribe of the Milky Way wants to participate in this grand event. How can they not show up? Don't worry, I will help you achieve your wish, but, Jiankong, don't forget your promise. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's eyes were blood-red. As long as you kill Dong Wang and wipe out the human tribe of the Milky Way, I will give you the meteorite vortex. Dong Wang, he must die. Chapter 2143. In the southeastern region of the God-fallen world, a fierce battle took place. Of the 6 high-level gods, 2 were dead and 2 were severely injured. In the end, the demonic ape, a special life form in the void turbulence, took the demonic ape. The Golden Ape Emperor from the God-fallen world's 3-clawed Golden Ape clan failed. Such a chaotic battle was the best way to reflect one's strength. Although they were all high-level gods, some were only at the threshold of high-level gods, while others were ordinary. The demonic ape and the Golden Ape Emperor were both at the limit of high-level gods, so they were naturally stronger. In the end, the demonic ape had the advantage of agility and was the first to take the meteorite vortex. The Golden Ape Emperor was on par with the demonic ape, and neither could do anything to the other. When the dust settled, There were still some mid-level and low-level gods who were unwilling to give up intervening in the chaotic battle. However, none of them could get close to the meteorite vortex. This was a true contest of strength. At the same time, Lin Feng was still refining the divine light rhinoceros horn in the giant rhinoceros valley. Although refining the divine light rhinoceros horn was much easier than refining the blood rhinoceros horn, it still required a lot of time. The second pig rearing plan was carried out smoothly. 100 years before the seventh meteorite vortex was unearthed, only one giant rhinoceros tribe member had become a god. However, 100 years after the meteorite vortex was unearthed, the other 4 giant rhinoceros tribe members had all become gods. The slowest one took less than 160 years. It's done. Lin Feng breathed a sigh of relief on the 177th year of refining the divine light rhinoceros horn. The divine vein of light shone. The great Tao of light, the second all of law. Everything was going smoothly, including the formation of the all of law. He followed the pattern of the divine light rhinoceros horn without any hindrance. It was even easier than the blood rhinoceros horn. Now, it's time to harvest the fruits of my labor. Lin Feng could not wait any longer. The 5 secret techniques of the great Tao of light. Lin Feng harvested the 5 divine light rhinoceros horns without hesitation. Although he had sacrificed 5 gods for this, ordinary giant rhinoceros tribe members were of no use to him at all. He did not plan to establish a sect, nor did he plan to create a powerful tribe force. Everything he did was to strengthen himself. The first secret technique was an offensive secret technique. The second secret technique was an offensive secret technique. Lin Feng frowned slightly as he refined the third god spirit light rhinoceros horn. Wow! Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he gently nodded. This time, it was no longer an offensive secret technique. Instead, it was a special secret technique, double light speed. Whether it was the origin awakened continent, the god-fallen world, or the universe outside, it was all the same. The speed of light was the extreme under normal circumstances. Once one exceeded the speed of light, they would be suppressed by the environment and resisted by the supreme laws. Only those who were extremely powerful would be able to withstand the backlash and suppression and increase their speed. Of course, there were some special treasures and secret techniques that were exceptions. The special secret technique, double light speed, was one of them. Stabilizing 2 times the speed of light and not being suppressed by the backlash? Lin Feng was rather astonished. This secret art was actually quite good and had a wide range of uses. The god-fallen world's supreme law suppression and backlash were not as strong as the universe's, but they were not small. With his current power, he could barely reach twice the speed of light, but he could not maintain it for long. I can only stabilize it between 1, 2 and 1, 3 times, and it consumes energy. Learning double light speed is useful. Lin Feng nodded. As far as secret techniques were concerned, special ones were very rare. The chances of them appearing were much lower than agility technique. I wanted agility techniques, but an even rarer special one just happened to appear. Lin Feng shook his head. However, this one was at least better than the other 2 offensive secret techniques. At least it was useful for now. Not only would it be useful in the god-fallen world, but it would also be useful in the universe. 2 more. Lin Feng continued to refine the 4th god spirit light rhinoceros horn. This time, it was not an offensive secret technique. Instead, it was an auxiliary secret technique. It was not very useful to him. The 5th. Lin Feng continued to try. There are so many offensive secret techniques. Lin Feng was also helpless. However, he knew that this was normal. After all, this was an ability given to the giant rhinoceros race by the heavens. The giant rhinoceros race originally lacked offensive abilities. They were given more defensive and offensive abilities. For example, the auxiliary secret technique of the 4th horn belonged to the defensive category. The special secret technique, double light speed, also belonged to the defensive category. It's not like I didn't gain anything. The special secret technique of double light speed is not bad. It can be used. Moreover, I've only obtained 5 God Spirit Light rhinoceros horns. It's still early. Lin Feng was not discouraged. He still needed to warm up before the battle. Obtaining an even rarer special secret technique was not bad either. There was still plenty of time. Continue. This time, Lin Feng chose a total of 15 giant rhinoceros race members, who cultivated the Tao of Light Speed, and 5, who cultivated the Tao of Brilliant Light. This was because only these 2 Tao of Light had reached the origin realm. It was easier to cultivate them. No matter how good the other secret techniques were, he would need to comprehend at least the origin realm and condense the all of laws. Right now, there was not enough time. He cultivated the special secret technique of double light speed and refined the God Spirit Light rhinoceros horns without neglecting either. During his free time, he practiced the blade and grasped the mysteries of boundless gravity again. After comprehending the Tao of Brilliant Light and the Tao of Oblivion, Lin Feng's understanding of boundless gravity had deepened and become much clearer. What he could not see and did not understand before was now much clearer. However, it would take a long time to completely grasp boundless gravity. Right now, it could only be said that he had just begun. Moreover, his blade technique still needed to be tempered in actual combat. It was impossible to cultivate behind closed doors. 100 years, 200 years. 205 years after the 7th meteorite vortex was unearthed, the clone Ku Dun had absorbed enough energy and consumed a large amount of giant rhinoceros crystals. He finally broke through the bottleneck and took the crucial step. High-level God Expert. Although it was just the threshold, Ku Dun's defense had reached the limit of high-level God Experts. It was even comparable to top-level God Experts with weaker defense. To Lin Feng, it was undoubtedly a great help. The main body's strength steadily increased. After refining the second God Spirit Light rhinoceros horn and reaching the origin realm in the Tao of Light, the main body's strength had taken a small step forward from the threshold of low-level God Expert. The current me should be on the same level as Dragon Emperor Jiankong and the Patriarch. Lin Feng smiled with satisfaction. With each comprehension of the origin realm, even if his bloodline had not broken through, his life level was steadily increasing. At this moment, the 8th meteorite vortex was getting closer and closer. 15 God Spirit Light rhinoceros horns of the Tao of Light and 5 Tao of Brilliant Light had been obtained. I don't believe it. These 15 God Spirit Light rhinoceros horns of the Tao of Light don't even have a movement secret technique. Lin Feng was very confident. Unless the light rhinoceros horn did not have movement secret techniques, he would definitely find it this time. Sure enough, just the 3rd God Spirit Light rhinoceros horn gave him a harvest. Finally, I got it. Lin Feng revealed a satisfied smile. This was what he truly needed. The first Tao of Light. The Origin Realm's Secret Technique. Chapter 2144. 100,000 Origins Secret Technique, Cloud Cicada Steps. Lin Feng carefully comprehended the secret technique. It was a kind of movement technique that relied on the instantaneous eruption of movement and the path of light. It was very profound. 100,000 Origin Realm was just the foundation. The instantaneous eruption of the path of light was even more important. The greater the eruption, the greater the power of the cloud cicada steps. Lin Feng could not help but think of the luminous ladybug king. It was the fastest life form he had ever seen. It was a result of its innate talent. It was so powerful that it was difficult to replicate and cultivate. Its starting speed was the speed of light. This kind of eruption was simply terrifying. If the luminous ladybug king used the cloud cicada steps, it would be invincible, Lin Feng sighed. The cloud cicada steps could be used to attack and defend. The only flaw was that it was too profound. Although it was not as complicated as the secret techniques recorded in the myriad heaven path, it was not easy to cultivate. Now, he did not have much time left. The next meteorite vortex was about to appear. He might not be able to cultivate the cloud cicada steps now. I'll just do whatever I can, Lin Feng thought. At the very least, it was a movement technique with an extremely high upper limit. That was enough. As for whether he could obtain the 8th meteorite vortex, it would depend on luck. Even if he comprehended the cloud cicada steps, he would at most reach the limit of elementary gods. So what if he reached the threshold of intermediate gods? He would still not be a match for those high-level gods. Unless my path of light reaches the same level as the luminous Ladybug King, Lin Feng smiled. He knew it was impossible. The luminous Ladybug King relied on its innate talent and not its own cultivation. However, it was indeed possible to use the cloud cicada steps to the limit. The prerequisite was that his path of light had increased by a lot after reaching 100,000 origin realm. He continued to refine the divine light rhinoceros horns. This was only the 3rd one, and Lin Feng would not waste the remaining 12. Perhaps another special secret technique like double speed of light would appear? However, his luck was not that good. Special secret techniques were very rare, and they had to be compatible with the characteristics of the giant rhinoceros clan. The 8th horn, the 10th horn, the 12th horn. Apart from the 3rd horn, the 7th and 10th horns were also a little useful. However, they were useless to Lin Feng. This was because the time spent on cultivating the secret technique would be better spent on improving other aspects. The cost-performance ratio was not high enough. The last one. Lin Feng was already very satisfied. His original plan was for one of the 15 light-speed Dao God-light rhinoceros horns to appear. He only needed a movement technique of 100,000 origins. Now, he had already achieved his goal. Biting off more than one can chew. Even if he was given 5 or 10 different sets of 100,000 origins secret techniques, he could only cultivate one set at a time. Oh! Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. Previously, he had yearned for it in every way possible, but it just wouldn't come. Now that he already had one set of movement techniques, he didn't need it that much anymore. Yet, he had to ask for a second set. However, it was not a bad thing to have choices. 5 transformations overlapping shadows, 5 layers of transformations. Lin Feng's eyes lit up and he quickly immersed himself in the secret technique. This was a completely different movement technique from the cloud cicada step. The other was similar to a combat movement technique. As for the other, it was similar to an evasive movement technique. The two had different functions. It was hard to say which was stronger or weaker. They were both basic secret techniques bestowed by the heavens. There was not much difference between them. The key was their applicability. Moving at the speed of light creates afterimages. With each layer, it becomes the 5 transformations overlapping shadows. With each additional layer cultivated, there will be an additional layer of afterimages, and the power will be stronger. Lin Feng was moved. Afterimages. It was inexplicably compatible with his dark matter Dao. His dark matter Dao was already a blurry afterimage. Now that he was using the 5 transformations overlapping shadows, he could achieve twice the results with half the effort. The most important point was, the 5 transformations overlapping shadows had no other miscellaneous requirement. It could be cultivated directly. Although it is easy to cultivate but difficult to master, it is much easier than the cloud cicada step. Lin Feng nodded. He didn't expect that the last horn of the 15 light speed Dao Godlight rhinoceros horns would give him such a great gift. The 2 movement techniques weren't bad, but they focused on different aspects. The cloud cicada steps was more difficult, and its upper limit was higher. It would take more time to cultivate and comprehend it. The 5 transformations overlapping shadows had a high starting point. He could cultivate an afterimage right from the start. Moreover, there would be a slight improvement between each layer. He could improve it step by step. Although the upper limit wasn't high, it was most suitable for him now. With the remaining time, the possibility of cultivating 2 transformations is not high. However, if I master the most basic transformation, creating an afterimage shouldn't be a problem. Lin Feng had browsed through it dozens of times. He completely understood the information of the 5 transformations overlapping shadows. He could cultivate it successfully in a short period of time. I'll choose this. After a brief comparison, Lin Feng made his decision. As for the 5 light-speed Dao Godlight Rhinoceros horns, although there was a decent 100,000 origins secret technique, it wouldn't increase his combat power by much. Out of the 20 light rhinoceros horns, 2 are useful. Lin Feng smiled. A 1 in 10 chance was pretty good. The remaining giant rhinoceros crystal mine can probably nurture close to 20 ordinary giant rhinoceros clan members. Apart from the light speed Dao, I'll divide the other 5 light speed Dao equally. Lin Feng nodded. The giant rhinoceros crystal mine would be wasted if he kept it. He might as well use it all. Although he would be suspected of being overly militaristic, this was the best way for him to go about it. Time passed quickly. To an expert like Lin Feng, 500 years was just the blink of an eye, and it would pass in an instant. It's about time to leave. Lin Feng let out a sigh. Although he hadn't completely refined the 3rd light rhinoceros horn, he couldn't wait any longer. After a few more decades, no one knew what would happen. I'll leave when the anomaly appears. There's only 100 years left. I won't make it in time. Lin Feng knew very well that the journey from the giant Rhinoceros Valley to the southern region would take 100 years. After entering the southern region, it would take some time to find the anomaly's true location. Every time the meteorite vortex appeared, it would take between 500 to 800 years. Let's go. After putting away the last 18 light rhinoceros horns, Lin Feng left the giant Rhinoceros Valley along with his doppelganger Ku Dun. It was a strange combination of man and beast, but their strength couldn't be underestimated. In the past 500 years, both his main body and his doppelganger had improved a lot. I wonder if there are many experts fighting for the 8th meteorite vortex. Lin Feng thought to himself. If it was like the 6th meteorite vortex, where there were only 2 high-level god powerhouses, then he could rely on his doppelganger, Ku Dun, to defend himself against 2 high-level god powerhouses, while his main body could seize the meteorite vortex with 5 transformations overlapping shadows. 1 attacking and 1 defending, a perfect combination. The 5 transformations layered shadows was a pure 100,000 origins secret technique. It was very suitable for dodging and escaping. As long as I can get the meteorite vortex, I can use the 5 transformations layered shadows to escape. I can also use the special secret technique double light speed to increase the distance. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and full of confidence, but the prerequisite was that he could get it. Chapter 2145. In the southern region of the God-fallen world, many experts had already arrived. Although the secret of the meteorite vortex was not easy to decipher, there were still clues. Many special life forms might not be as smart as the experts of the Origin Awakened continent, but they were still intelligent and could make judgments. They might not be sure where the 8th meteorite vortex would appear, but the southern region was undoubtedly the most likely place. Therefore, they chose to enter the southern region first. Time was not important to them. They did not need to race against time like Lin Feng. 500 years ago, when the competition for the 7th meteorite vortex had ended, many experts had already gathered. The special life forms of the chaotic void. The native experts of the God-fallen world. The anomaly had yet to appear, but there were close to 20 high-level gods. More than 70% of these high-level gods would be able to reach the anomaly and participate in the competition. When the time came, it would be a fierce battle. Damn it, this is not the way. Then what do you want? Even if we work together, we won't be able to change anything. Didn't the Fatal Limit and the Void Dragon race work together? That old dragon Sky and that witch Poison Rose are both stronger than the two of us combined, but we still ended up with nothing. The special life forms of the God-fallen world are too talented. An expert of the winged race with 6 pairs of golden wings and a giant man in black crystal armor with a giant axe on his back were traveling together. Their auras were not strong. They were just ordinary gods, unremarkable in the current southern region, but in Origin Awakened continent, the two of them were great figures with great reputations. The patriarch of the winged race, ranked 9th on the Origin Awakened list, Progenitor E. The patriarch of the King's Arena, ranked 8th on the Origin Awakened list, Venerable Axe. They each controlled a faction. Not only were they experienced, but they were also cunning. They had both guessed the location of the 8th meteorite vortex. When the 7th meteorite vortex appeared, they were also present. But so what? They did not have enough strength to compete. Even if they racked their brains and had monstrous luck, they would not be able to participate. Forget it. The Destiny race is not in a hurry, so why should we? Progenitor E flapped his giant wings, causing the space to tremble as he laughed. Haha, you're right. Venerable Axe's laughter was loud. Only 3 of the 10 meteorite vortexes had landed in the hands of the Origin Awakened continent's expert. They had landed in the hands of the Crepe Myrtle Star Tower, the Void Dragon race, and the Milky Way's human race. The Destiny race was the strongest, but they did not obtain even one. When it came to luck, it was hard to say. I heard that the Void Dragon race and Fatal Limit suffered heavy losses this time. They were defeated by a little fellow from the Milky Way human race. Ancestor E laughed. I heard about it too. It's the demonic Saber King, a little guy from the Milky Way's human tribe who appeared out of nowhere. Like Bailey Jean, he must have obtained an inheritance from the Heaven Road impasse. Otherwise, no matter how strong he is, there should be a limit to his strength. There's no way he could enter the top 10 of the Origin Awakening list, Venerable Axe said. Who cares? The more intense the fight, the better. The Void Dragon race and the Milky Way's human race have been holding grudges against each other for a long time. I can't wait for them to be defeated. When the great samsara ends, the winged race will rise. Venerable Axe nodded. I haven't seen the demonic Blade King, so I don't know what kind of person he is. But Bailey Jin's luck is unbelievable. He got a blessing in disguise. He is stronger than you and me. Humph, he is just a nobody. He has the Azure Dragon King. What is there to worry about? Progenitor Yi's eyes were full of disdain. Maybe he will die here. Venerable Axe laughed out loud. You're quite black-hearted. I am telling the truth. Progenitor Yi's eyes sharpened. We have seen so many geniuses like him. So what if he has potential and talent? He is only strong if he can survive. Just like Yen Fagia. The giant axe on Venerable Axe's back vibrated. He has been in seclusion for countless eras. I wonder if he has made a breakthrough? Even if he has, he is no match for those monsters in the God-fallen world and the turbulent void space. Progenitor E said, let's go. The phenomenon should appear soon. Let's go to the center of the southern region first. Okay. A storm was coming. The center of the southern region was where most of the experts were gathered. At this moment, Lin Feng was also heading in that direction. As long as the phenomenon did not appear, the center of the southern region would be his target. If he set off from there, he would be able to reach it within 100 years as long as the phenomenon did not appear at the edge of the southern region. However, that was only for other experts. For Lin Feng, entering the southern region was enough. I have mastered double light speed. Lin Feng smiled. After stepping into the southern region, he knew that he would not miss the fight for the 8th meteorite vortex. Even if it was on the other side of the southern region, he would be able to make it in time if he rushed over at double light speed. However, a secret technique like double light speed was a life-saving trump card for him. Naturally, he would not use it unless necessary. Only when he used it at a critical moment could it be called a true trump card. I have already mastered the first transformation of the 5 transformation overlapping shadows. Now, I am not far from the second transformation. Lin Feng was very satisfied. The cultivation of the 5 transformation overlapping shadows was faster than he had expected. It should be related to the fact that my Tao of dark matter has reached 100,000 origin realm. Both of them are good at speed, and the 5 transformation overlapping shadows is good at transformation, which coincides with the Tao of dark matter. However, even if it is only the first transformation with the Tao of light speed and the Tao of dark matter, I can still unleash 150% or even 200% of my normal power. If I can comprehend the second transformation, my battle prowess will directly reach the level of a mid-level god. Lin Feng was very clear. His current strength was almost at the limit of a low-level god. With the 100,000 origin secret technique and the saber technique, his close-range combat ability had reached this level, which was comparable to Poison Rose. If he encountered Poison Rose again, he was confident that he could defeat her in a head-on battle. If he used the second transformation of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, it would be even more powerful. As he comprehended the Tao of Light one by one, his life level had increased, and his soul had also transformed. Now, the power of the second transformation of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow was at the level of a mid-level god. For those experts who were not good at the Tao of Soul, like the giant rhinoceros clan, he could even inflict considerable damage on high-level gods. My clone Ku Dun has been strengthening his defense for the past few hundred years. The effect is also not bad. Whether or not I can get the meteorite vortex depends on him. Although the strength of his original body had increased tremendously, he was still far from the clone Ku Dun. His clone Ku Dun was a true high-level god. Moreover, he was good at defense. Chapter 2146. It's here. The vision has appeared. Haha, it's really here. We guessed right. The last meteorite vortex must be mine. The southern region was in an uproar. A large number of experts gathered in the center of the southern region poured out like a tide. Their power was strong enough to raise the entire territory to the ground. Mid-level deity-level experts were nothing here, and there were plenty of high-level deity-level experts as well. However, there were no top-level deity-level experts. Even in the previous 7 meteorite vortexes, top-level deity-level experts had never appeared. However, this stimulated the deity-level experts' desire to seize the treasure. If top-level deity-level experts also participated in the competition, there was basically no doubt who would get the meteorite vortex. Among the experts, Dragon Emperor Jiankong and Poisonous Rose were also present. They had arrived here early and could even guess the existence of the turbulent void and the special life form of the god-fallen world. How could they not guess? However, they were here but not in the heart. Their strength was similar as they were both low-level deity-level experts. Poisonous Rose was slightly stronger as she could reach the limit of low-level deity level if she went all out. However, compared to these mid-level and high-level deity-level experts, she was undoubtedly a small fry. The two of them together could at most deal with the mid-level deity-level expert. Forget it, Jiankong. Dong Wang won't come, Poisonous Rose said. Let's go. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's face darkened as his huge dragon tail swept across, stirring up a cloud of dust. Poisonous Rose said coldly, Why bother? We won't see him even if we go. It's a waste of time. Dragon Emperor Jiankong said sternly, Anyway, I'll do what I promised you, and you'll do what you promised me. I don't believe that Dong Wang is not greedy at all. Go to the meteorite vortex and wait. As soon as he appears, kill those bastards of the Milky Way's human tribe immediately. Since the war had begun, there was no turning back. Dragon Emperor Jiankong clearly knew that if he did not take this opportunity to kill Dong Huang and wipe out the human tribe of the Milky Way, he would not have another chance when the great reincarnation ended. Moreover, the rise of the human tribe of the Milky Way would be unstoppable. The vision has appeared. Lin Feng looked up at the sky. This was the third time he had seen the phenomenon, so he could not be more familiar with it. He carefully sensed the area where the phenomenon was changing, and soon, he found the source of the phenomenon. It was slightly far from where he was, but it happened to be within his range. If we maintain the speed of light, we should be able to reach it in about 95 years. Lin Feng made a clear judgment. Although the God-fallen world was dangerous, with his current strength, there were not many who could stop him. Even if he was unlucky, it would be fine. He still had the special secret technique, double light speed. If the meteorite vortex was unearthed, they would definitely be able to catch up. The Patriarch probably won't appear. However, Poison Rose will most likely be present. At that time, we can settle this once and for all. Lin Feng smiled. He was no longer the ignorant person he used to be. Even if he didn't send out his doppelganger Ku Dun, he was confident that he could fight Poison Rose with his original body's strength. Speaking of which, I've already run into several high-level deities along the way. I'm afraid that the meteorite vortex this time will be a gathering of heroes. Lin Feng sighed with emotion. He had bumped into a few along the way, so one could imagine how many high-level deities there were in the entire southern region. The fight for the last meteorite vortex would be more difficult than he had expected. With my strength, I'm afraid I won't be able to reach it head-on. Lin Feng pondered. However, I also have my advantages. My doppelganger Ku Dun's defense has reached the limit of high-level deities, and his soul defense is no longer his weakness. In terms of defense alone, he is definitely outstanding. Moreover, no one knows the relationship between Ku Dun and me. If he couldn't win with brute force, he could only win with his wits. Even so, he still wasn't confident. It's up to fate. I'll give it my all. If I really can't get it, then there's nothing I can do. Lin Feng was in a good mood. To others, this might be a great opportunity, but to him, it was more of curiosity. He wanted to know the secrets of the God-fallen world, the void turbulence, and even the wandering planet. Lin Feng didn't need inheritances or treasures. He already had the bloodline of his ancestor and the inheritance of the thousand heaven path. As long as he cultivated patiently step by step, he could reach the limit of the heavenly path. Moreover, he had more important things to do. Soon I'll return to the Milky Way. To Lin Feng, this was the most important thing. Serene Cage Mountain Range. This was the territory of the Nether Dragon race, a powerful race in the southern region. The giant rhinoceros race barely made it into the top 10 in the southwest region, but the Nether Dragon race was one of the top 10 races even in the God-fallen world. In the southern region, they were undoubtedly the strongest race. The Serene Cage Mountain Range was the largest territory in the southern region. Normally, who would dare to step into this terrifying area? But now, many experts were stepping in, and the Nether Dragon race didn't stop them. Although they were arrogant, they weren't stupid. No matter how strong they were individually, they were facing the experts of the entire God-fallen world and the void turbulence. The Serene Cage Mountain Range is like a cage, locking up forbidden areas. It's extremely dangerous. We're the most familiar with the terrain here. As long as the meteorite vortex appears, we'll be able to find it immediately. With the strength of the three of us, we'll protect the meteorite vortex. The leader was a man with black dragon horns on his head. His face was green and black, and he looked extremely evil. The other two were a man and a woman. They were dressed similarly, but their status seemed to be slightly inferior. Their faces were green and black, and they had sharp black dragon horns. They were filled with a violent and oppressive aura. The three of them were all high-level god experts. The strongest race in the southern region was definitely worthy of their reputation. Yes, leader. The two dark Dragonians had solemn expressions. The meteorite vortex appearing in the Serene Cage mountain range might not be a good thing for their race, but to the three of them, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They had a better chance of obtaining it. With the terrain advantage, they were destined to have a higher chance of obtaining the meteorite vortex than other high-level god experts. Experts gathered one after another. The Serene Cage mountain range was getting more and more lively. In just 50 years, there were more than 20 high-level god experts in the Serene Cage mountain range, and more than 100 mid-level god experts. It was terrifying. Even if the Nether Dragon race was the strongest race in the southern region, they couldn't stop so many experts from entering. If they resisted, they wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being crushed. The darkness aura here is too dense. Yeah, and there's also a natural barrier. It's very dangerous. Isn't that so? Previously, those idiots from the Ponyu race went straight into that mountain and never came out. We can't possibly flatten the Serene Cage mountain range, right? That would be making an enemy of the Nether Dragon race. Letting you in is already an exception. If you dare to destroy their territory, you're really tired of living. Do you really think the Nether Dragon race is a pushover? Chapter 2147. The Ghost Dragon clan had a total of 3 high-level deities. They had no choice but to tolerate it now. But that didn't mean they were pushovers. Everyone knew that the Ghost Dragon clan had always been temperamental and murderous. Anyway, for those high-level deities, so what if they destroyed the entire territory? Now, there were more than 20 high-level deities. By the time it was unearthed, there would be more than 30 high-level deities. What were the chances of so many deities vying for a meteorite vortex? Those high-level deities were well aware of it. It wasn't worth offending the Ghost Dragon clan for this. Moreover, although this territory was strange and ever-changing, it was the same for all of them. Everyone was still on the same starting line. Instead of destroying it, they might as well use the time to survey the terrain. That was a smarter approach. On the 66th year of the anomaly, Dragon Emperor Jiankong and Poison Rose arrived. They weren't in a hurry because they didn't have much interest in this meteorite vortex. They already knew that they wouldn't get a share. Their participation was more of a non-existent hope and Dragon Emperor Jiankong's obsession. Kill Dong Wang and destroy the Milky Way's human clan. The arrow had been shot, and Dragon Emperor Jiankong could no longer turn back. If this great reincarnation couldn't destroy Dong Wang and the Milky Way's human clan, then after the great reincarnation ended, he and the Void Dragon clan would be the ones to die. The terrain here is good. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's killing intent flashed. It's suitable for hiding and ambushing. Poison Rose was an expert in this field. She could tell at a glance that this terrain was perfect for assassins. Dragon Emperor Jiankong nodded. Let's find a good place to hide and wait for Dong Wang to walk into the trap. I'm afraid he might not come. Poison Rose poured cold water on him. Humph. Dragon Emperor Jiankong snorted and glanced at Poison Rose coldly. He also knew that the chances were slim, but as long as there was a chance, he wouldn't give up. A game of chess had already begun. The unearthing of the last meteorite vortex attracted the attention of many deities. To them, this was their last hope. Some deities had already begun surveying the terrain of the Serene Cage mountain range and made preparations. Some deities, like Dragon Emperor Jiankong and Poison Rose, found a place to hide. Most of the deities chose to bet on their luck. They had to find a place covered by the black haze and hope that the meteorite vortex would appear where they were. Although the Serene Cage mountain range was vast and the probability of this happening was very low, it was better to have some hope than none. Who knows, maybe I'll get it. Luck and opportunity were hard to predict. It had been 96 years since the time Anomaly had appeared. The entire Serene Cage mountain range was like a huge cage, and divine-level experts were imprisoned everywhere. As the meteorite vortex was about to appear, all the experts' hearts were in their throats. The last 4 years, the number of high-level gods in the Serene Cage mountain range had reached an astonishing 36. In the first 50 years, the highest number of high-level deities had arrived because most of them were originally concentrated in the central area of the southern region. The next 50 years came one after another. We caught the last bus. Lin Feng arrived with a group of four-eyed toad-like creatures. His expression was calm and indifferent. The estimated 1995 year had taken an extra year, so the deviation was not big. But this year, my luck has been pretty good. Lin Feng thought of this and smiled. On the way here, he had coincidentally encountered a hunting group. They had fought for no reason. He did not ask his doppelganger Ku Dun to help. His original body's strength was just right, and he had comprehended something during the battle. After that, he had spent a full year to comprehend and digest the information. Otherwise, the time would have been exactly as expected. This is the Serene Cage mountain range? Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he looked into the distance. There was a continuous mountain range with no end in sight. The mountain range was covered in black haze. Some were thick while others were thin. From afar, it looked like countless demons had occupied the mountain range. The ghost dragon race was famous in the god-falling world, and the Serene Cage mountain range was also famous. His doppelganger Ku Dun naturally knew about it. As usual, my luck is not very good. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. To him, the Serene Cage mountain range was actually a good place to be the main battlefield. The problem was that the one fighting this time was not his original body, but his doppelganger Ku Dun. The giant rhinoceros race's light talent was extremely strong. His doppelganger Ku Dun was proficient in the path of light. However, the power of darkness in the Serene Cage mountain range was too strong. It completely suppressed the light lineage. It was already not bad that his doppelganger Ku Dun could unleash 50% of his strength. What a pity! If my original body had the strength of a high-level god, this meteorite whirlpool would be a piece of cake. Lin Feng shook his head. This terrain was quite good for his original body. Even the ghost dragon race might not be able to use it as well as he did. However, his original body was too weak. In front of the top experts of the god-falling world and the turbulent void, he could not withstand a single blow. Even with the help of the terrain, he would at most have the strength of a mid-level god. What was the use? Lin Feng stepped into the territory of the Serene Cage mountain range in an instant. He looked around and could not help but laugh. There are still 4 years. Let's explore the environment first. Auras were scattered all over the mountain range like stars. They were like hibernating hunters waiting for their prey. These god-level experts were all trying their luck. The Serene Cage mountain range is so big. What are the chances of doing this? Lin Feng would not interfere. Everyone had their own choice. There was no need to meddle in other people's business. But then again, what they did was right. It was just that they did not use it well. With my current strength, I'm afraid I can only hide and try my luck. Lin Feng smiled. However, he was different from them. Even if he wanted to try his luck, he had to be careful. There was still time. He could go deep into the Serene Cage mountain range and carefully analyze the environment to see where the phenomenon was strongest and where the probability of the meteorite whirlpool was highest. Go deep. He could already sense the presence of high-level god-level experts, and there were many of them. Lin Feng was not worried. If it were outside, those high-level god-level experts might take action. But here, especially now that there were only 4 years left until the meteorite whirlpool appeared, no one would make a big fuss. It would expose their strength and attract attention. Snatching the meteorite whirlpool, unless one had the strongest strength, it was better to keep a low profile. The phenomenon here is stronger. It's just that it's hidden. Lin Feng stepped in step by step. In terms of aura sensing, even high-level god-level experts might not be as good as him. Although the aura of darkness was dense, he was proficient in the 6 paths of darkness, and 3 of them had reached the 100,000 origin realm. The darkness element was like his limbs. How could it be hidden? That is? Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He was slightly surprised, but he was instantly delighted. 2 extremely familiar auras were not far ahead. Dragon Emperor Niankong, Poisonous Rose. Chapter 2148. Demonic Blade King? As a top assassin, Poison Rose had already noticed Lin Feng. In terms of detection ability, she was not inferior to Lin Feng. Among the 3 of them, Dragon Emperor Jiankong was the weakest in this aspect. However, as Lin Feng slowly approached, Dragon Emperor Jiankong also noticed Lin Feng. He had been pestering Dongguang and had not really met Lin Feng. However, he knew from Poison Rose that there was a very powerful newcomer in the Milky Way human tribe. The deputy leader of the tribe, Ghost Claw Dragon, had died in the hands of Lin Feng. A newcomer with amazing potential? I will destroy the future of the Milky Way human tribe first. Let's see if Dongguang, that be *starred, will feel sorry and be angry. Dragon Emperor Jiankong was not as calm as Poison Rose. He immediately rushed out of the black haze. This was not a good time for a sneak attack, but Dragon Emperor Jiankong did not care. He was the leader of the Void Dragon tribe, a big shot ranked 5th on the Origin Awakening list. Why would he need to be sneaky when dealing with a little brat? It would be a disgrace if word got out. Boom! The moment Dragon Emperor Jiankong appeared, his huge tail whip directly lashed out with the profound meaning of wind. His body instantly enlarged, and his tail, which was covered with green scales, became thicker and longer. The power of wind was contained in it. Fast. The Tao of Wind was very fast in terms of attack speed. The Void Dragon tribe was gifted with the Tao of Space and Wind. They were very strong in close combat. In addition, the Void Dragon tribe had strong physical bodies. Hence, their close combat ability was outstanding and they had no weaknesses. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed and disappeared. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's tail whipped out a shadow. It was a waste of energy. What? Dragon Emperor Jiankong widened his eyes in disbelief. With his attack speed, his unexpected attack had actually been dodged? Sly. Poison Rose crossed her arms and floated in the black haze. She clearly knew the battle. You obviously have the ability to counterattack, but you pretended to be weak and retreated. Did you discover me? Poison Rose had a rough idea of Lin Feng's strength. Previously, when Lin Feng and Firefly joined forces, under their tacit cooperation, they had almost forced her to use all her strength. Firefly hasn't made her move yet. Is she waiting for me to make a move? Poison Rose couldn't sense Firefly's aura, so she became even more cautious. Anyway, she had planned to watch the show from the beginning, so it didn't matter. Last time, she didn't manage to bite down on this tough bone. This time, she would let Dragon Emperor Jiankong do it. If he could use less strength, then so be it. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Lin Feng retreated 3 times in a row, avoiding the 3 attacks from Dragon Emperor Jiaokong. Just as Poison Rose had expected, it was because he had discovered her. Although Lin Feng wanted to give it a try, he knew that his chances of winning were only 30% at most. Of course, if the Avatar Ku Dun participated in the battle, he would have won. But exposing his Avatar Horo Dun was too much of a waste. With his strength alone, he was not afraid of Dragon Emperor Jiao Kong and Poison Rose in a one-on-one battle. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's strength was close to the limit of a low-level deity, while Poison Rose's strength was at the limit of a low-level deity. As for him, he was also at the pinnacle of a novice deity. In fact, she was even closer to becoming a mid-tier deity than Poison Rose. It's about time here. Lin Feng's movement technique changed rapidly. In an instant, he had distanced himself from Poison Rose to avoid her direct attack and causing the situation to go out of control. In this position, even if Poison Rose suddenly attacked, he would still have time to react. Roar! Dragon Emperor Jiankong roared, causing the entire space to shatter. His talent ability was quite terrifying. Streaks of spatial turbulence tried to devour Lin Feng like ferocious beasts, but they missed. Whoosh! Whoosh! The warm wings protected Lin Feng, preventing him from getting hurt. Although Lin Feng's attainment in space was not as good as Dragon Emperor Jiankong's talent, the warm wings' ability defense was not a problem. Although he was at a disadvantage against Dragon Emperor Jiankong's talent ability, he was not injured. Defense, more defense. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He patiently set up traps step by step. Although he was at a disadvantage, he was not injured at all. On the other hand, Dragon Emperor Jiankong became more and more anxious as he roared with a pale face. He could not defeat Donghuang, and now he could not even kill a little guy from the Milky Way's human tribe. What dignity did he have left? Damn it! Dragon Emperor Jiankong was furious and could not hold back his emotions. His blood vessels were expanding, and his attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer. Like the raging waves of the sea, he wanted to devour Lin Feng. At this moment, Lin Feng was like a lonely sail in the sea, in imminent danger. Huh? Poison Rose, who was watching from the sidelines, suddenly frowned. Even though Dragon Emperor Jiankong had the absolute advantage and could easily take Lin Feng's life with every attack, she still felt that something was not right. Something was very wrong. With the strength of the demonic Blade King, even if he is not as strong as Dragon Emperor Jiankong, he should not be so weak. From head to toe, he did not even make a decent attack. This is not right. Poison Rose had fought with Lin Feng before. She knew his strength. Although she did not use her full strength that day, Lin Feng's attack and Firefly's cooperation had left a deep impression on her. How could such a strong person be willing to be completely suppressed by Dragon Emperor Jiankong without any resistance? Firefly did not make a move, and the demonic Blade King kept retreating, which angered Dragon Emperor Jiankong. Could it be? Poison Rose's expression changed instantly. In an instant, the burning rose mark on her forehead shone, and her phoenix eyes shone brightly. She suddenly pulled out her fiery red whip, and her body turned into a fiery light and shot out like a phoenix. However, it's too late. Lin Feng had been paying attention to Poison Rose's movements since the beginning, and would not give her a chance to intervene. Lin Feng, who had been shrouded in Dragon Emperor Jiankong's space, suddenly turned into two phantoms, and his aura suddenly dissipated. The wings of warmth rolled the space, and Lin Feng instantly broke free from Dragon Emperor Jiankong's control. What? It was Dragon Emperor Jiankong, who wanted to take Lin Feng's life. His expression changed, and before he could react, a terrifying blade chi came from the front. It was extremely fast, and he was completely caught off guard. Chi. His hard scales and armor were directly torn apart, and the light and darkness energy intertwined, exploding like a bomb. The pain was shocking. Dragon Emperor Jiankong screamed. He did not expect to suffer such a heavy blow, and his eyes were wide open in anger, and he was hysterical. The injury made him extremely crazy. Bastard! Dragon Emperor Jiankong forcibly stopped his body, and directly counterattacked Lin Feng in midair. His fighting spirit was fierce, but in an instant, his vision turned white, and he could not see anything. His head rumbled as if it had been struck by lightning. The depths of his sea of consciousness seemed to have exploded, and in the next moment, a terrifying blade light descended from the sky, and completely tore apart Dragon Emperor Jiankong's defense. Chi! Heaven and earth cried. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's eyes widened in shock, and blood spurted out. His huge body fell from the sky, and he died on the spot. Chapter 2149. Impossible! The fiery red whip had already lashed out, but it was too far away. Even though it broke through Lin Feng's defense, Dragon Emperor Jiankong had already died on the spot, and there was no way to save him. Who would have expected to be pecked blind by a wild goose all day long? Dragon Emperor Jiankong died because he was too conceited and self-righteous. If he had been more careful like Poison Rose, he would have been injured at most, and would not have been ambushed and killed on the spot. Warm Wings Protection. Poison Rose's attack was within Lin Feng's calculations. Warm Wings distorted the space, and when it blocked the first wave of attack from the fiery red whip, it had already retracted, like a giant cocoon wrapping around Lin Feng. Even though he was pushed back by the impact, Lin Feng was not injured, and he retreated with the help of Burning Rose's attack. He broke through the disadvantageous situation of 1 against 2. Only 20% of his soul power was consumed. Lin Feng's final attack on Dragon Emperor was the second stage of the Kunling Heart Arrow. With Lin Feng's current soul power, the power of the second stage of the Kunling Heart Arrow was extremely terrifying. Even a beginner-level God Realm expert would be severely injured, not to mention Dragon Emperor Jiankong, who was completely caught off guard. Who would have thought that a warrior with such outstanding close combat ability would be good at soul attacks? He did the opposite. The attack of the Kunling Heart Arrow was very subtle. No one would notice it, and they would only think that Dragon Emperor Jiankong was careless, and Lin Feng had broken through his defense and killed him on the spot. That was the truth, and the real fatal attack was the blade after the Kunling Heart Arrow. But if not for the Kunling Heart Arrow that made Dragon Emperor Jiankong's defense void, the last attack would at most be a heavy injury, and would definitely not be able to kill Dragon Emperor Jiankong. An injured wild beast and Poison Rose were too big of a threat to Lin Feng. He might as well use some soul power to get rid of one of them first. I underestimated you, to be able to kill Dragon Emperor Jiankong. Poison Rose's cold voice sounded, and her fiery red eyes reflected her beautiful face, but there was a hint of viciousness and killing intent. Poison Rose did not expect Lin Feng to be able to kill Dragon Emperor Jiankong. Whoosh, Lin Feng's figure changed, and he quickly broke free from Poison Rose's control. In the next moment, Great Brahma was summoned, and a huge amount of spatial energy instantly covered the entire area. Different methods were used to deal with different experts. Dragon Emperor Jiankong's attainments in the Tao of Space were quite strong. Using the Tao of Space in front of him was like selling one's axe in front of Lu Ban, it was too stupid. However, Poison Rose was different. She did not specialize in the Tao of Space. Although the space domain did not have much effect on the Poison Rose, it was better than nothing. At the very least, it could consume some of her energy. Battles were all about the integration of various details. What seemed inconspicuous at the moment could very well become the key to victory in the future. Turning into ashes, Lin Feng instantly counterattacked. His speed was quite fast. Now that his ways of light and ways of dark matter had both reached the origin realm, Lin Feng had comprehended the mysteries of disintegration long ago. The key to this move was its speed. When the two different types of speed were combined, although the individual power was not strong, the rhythm was smooth and suitable for controlling the battle situation. Combined with the ferocious attacks of the other saber moves, he was able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. What kind of blade technique is this? Poison Rose paled. The blade technique was fast, sometimes strange, as if there was no pause in between. Often, when one attack landed, another would appear, completely disrupting her rhythm. Her whip technique was completely useless. It could not block the strange and ever-changing blade technique. In a split second, Poison Rose went from offense to defense. She was forced into a passive position. In the next moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of her. The rhythm of the blade technique immediately changed, and a ferocious attack came crashing down like a mountain. It made Poison Rose grit her teeth in anger. Pung! The spiral whip was broken. In that short moment, not only was Poison Rose's attack broken, she was also slightly injured. Her bright red eyebrows were raised, making her seem like a furious tigress. She, the mighty leader of Fatal Limit, had actually been injured by a brat who was still wet behind the ears. "You're courting death." The fiery red rose on Poison Rose's forehead had already been completely ignited. It was as if her blood was boiling. Her entire body's strength was stimulated, causing her skin to become extremely red. Poison Rose was extremely bewitching, burning like a ball of fire. Her bloodline erupted. Boom! Lin Feng had completely infuriated Poison Rose. Her battle prowess, which was originally close to the limit of a low-level god, instantly reached the limit of a low-level god and continued to increase. Poison Rose's bloodline was quite powerful. It was similar to the innate ability of a special life form. It was much stronger than Dragon Emperor Jiankong's. She was ranked 4th on the Origin Awakening list, and her reputation was not undeserved. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Bright red roses shot out one after another, dancing together with the fiery red whip. It was like a beautiful dance. So fast. Lin Feng dodged repeatedly. His body was sometimes covered with light and sometimes turned into a ghost. Combined with great Brahma, his movement technique and dodging were extremely powerful. Even if he did not use the secret technique 5 transformations, overlapping shadows, he was still able to move with ease. She's improved again. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Poison Rose's aura continued to increase, from the limit of a low-level god to the threshold of a mid-level god. Now she had reached the threshold of a mid-level god. Her skin turned from bright red to dark red, and then to dark red. It was changing straight to blood red. She won't last long. Lin Feng saw through it with a glance. After increasing her speed and attack, Poison Rose's attacks combined with the poisonous flames. There was also a sinister aura that seeped into one's body. In terms of attack, it was an all-around attack. It was extremely terrifying. However, the power of such an attack had exceeded her limit. It was like burning one's blood essence. It could not last long. Defending and exhausting her energy was the best way. However, Lin Feng did not want to do that. If I rely on this to win against you, wouldn't my years of hard work be in vain? Lin Feng's battle intent surged. His figure suddenly changed, and he instantly executed the secret technique 5 transformations, overlapping shadows. His light speed afterimages changed rapidly. Instead of retreating, he advanced and went straight for Poison Rose. So what if she was a mid-level god? The current him was enough to fight her. She wanted to use her bloodline and retreat after attacking fiercely? Dream on. Tears of chaos. A huge halo descended. Lin Feng erupted with all his strength and attacked Poison Rose directly, using strength to break through speed. So what if he was injured? His physical body's strength and recovery ability were many times stronger than Poison Rose's. If she dared to be strong, he would accompany her to the end. The fierce battle here had already attracted the attention of many experts. However, the high-level gods did not care, and the mid-level gods did not have much interest in it. After all, it was just a battle between peak low-level gods. It was not a threat to them. However, to the ordinary gods and low-level gods, it was extremely attractive and extraordinary. Especially the experts from the Origin Awakened continent. Am I seeing things? Who is that guy fighting Poison Rose? Ancestor Yi's eyes widened and he trembled in shock. If I am not wrong, he should be the famous newcomer of the Milky Way's human tribe, Demonic Blade King Lin Feng. Venerable Axe's voice was buzzing, and his eyes shone brightly. He is so powerful. First, he killed Dragon Emperor Jiankong. Now, he is on par with Poison Rose. Chapter 2150. A fierce battle. Faced with Poison Rose, who had unleashed all her strength, Lin Feng chose to face her head-on and did not use the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow. With his current strength, it was easy for him to use the Kuan-Ling Heart Arrow to ambush Poison Rose in close combat. However, this time, Lin Feng wanted to test his own ability and see to what extent it could be stimulated. The Poison Rose was definitely a very good touchstone. She was very strong and had reached the threshold of a mid-level god when she unleashed her strength. However, Poison Rose was best at using poison, assassination, long-distance attacks and controlling the situation with her long whip. These were also Lin Feng's strength. It was just enough to restrain Poison Rose. Especially after he had cultivated the 5 changes overlapping shadows to the second transformation, Lin Feng's movement technique had improved tremendously. Even if Poison Rose was stronger, she was not afraid of him at all. They were evenly matched when fighting a mid-level god at the limit of a low-level god. With strong fighting spirit, Lin Feng's saber technique was constantly improving and comprehending during the battle with Poison Rose. This kind of evenly matched battle was an excellent way to improve oneself. This brat, how did he become so strong all of a sudden? Poison Rose's eyes were wide open and her beautiful face was extremely distorted. She attacked again and again, but she could not push back the human youth in front of her no matter what. Her impression of Lin Feng was still the first time they had crossed swords. At that time, when Lin Feng and Firefly joined forces, she could gain the upper hand without unleashing her bloodline. However, in this one-on-one battle, she could not gain the upper hand even when she had unleashed her bloodline. Damn it! Poison Rose became more and more frightened and guilty as the battle went on. She had always been very cautious. Otherwise, she would not have retreated without getting injured that day just to avoid the Azure Dragon King. Now it was even more so. She could not do anything to Lin Feng even after using all her strength. This made her even more shocked and her fear of battle grew stronger. Bloodline eruption could not last forever. Once it passed the peak, it would gradually fall. If she could not kill this human now, the future was unimaginable. Fear caused Poison Rose to lose her composure. In fact, although she did not have the upper hand in the current situation, she was not at a disadvantage either. It was just that Lin Feng's aura was stronger and more determined. They were like 2 armies facing each other, pressing forward courageously. However, Poison Rose was hesitating and could not make a decision. In terms of morale, the difference was too great. Even though Poison Rose was slightly superior in terms of battle prowess, she was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. Boundless weight. Lin Feng would not let go of such an opportunity. It was like a battle for territory. Poison Rose took a step back, and he took a step forward to expand his advantage. His boundless and heavy bladesmanship was like a battle blade being reforged, gradually showing its power. Heavy and boundless, boundless and violent. It was this state of disregard for everything and entering the saber with his heart that complemented the nomological might of the Tao of Brilliance and Tao of Annihilation that allowed his saber art comprehension to grow stronger. Lin Feng's fighting spirit also grew stronger. Press. Constant suppression. Boom. This was the first time Lin Feng had truly injured Poison Rose. The latter's beautiful eyes were wide open, and her bright red eyelids were filled with disbelief. Fresh blood seeped out, causing her skin to be even more horrifying. No! Poison Rose's voice was sharp. It turned from distorted to horrifying in an instant, like a demoness revealing her true form. In an instant it crazily tore at Lin Feng. The fiery red whip in its hand became more and more powerful, but its attack power could not be increased at will. Tempo was not everything. Poison Rose's state of mind is in chaos. Venerable Axe frowned deeply as he stared at the battlefield. Demonic Blade Monarch of the Milky Way's human tribe. What a terrifying newcomer. Ancestor Yi's voice trembled in disbelief. He was different from Venerable Axe. Venerable Axe was in charge of the arena of the kings. Although they were both top forces in the Origin Awakening continent, the competition between races was naturally greater than the competition between races. After the end of the Grand Reincarnation, the winged men led by him would have to face the human tribe of the Milky Way. I did not expect Poison Rose to be at a disadvantage after going all out. Venerable Axe sighed. He and Poison Rose were experts of the same generation and had entered the Origin Awakening list together. However, Poison Rose was smarter than him and knew how to manipulate people's hearts. Although their innate talents and potential were about the same, over the years, Poison Rose's strength was a level higher than his. But now, this strong woman whom he admired was being beaten so badly by a fledgling that she could not even lift her head. There are many newcomers. Ancestor E shook his head. We are really old. First, Yen Fagia left us far behind with his unstoppable momentum. Then, the Azure Dragon King appeared out of nowhere. Two incredible newcomers appeared in this great cycle of reincarnation. They are even more terrifying than Yen Fagia and the Azure Dragon King back then. Venerable Axe said, Bailey Jean is only at the level of a novice god. Demonic Blade Monarch Lin Feng, on the other hand, is at the level of a mid-level god. He is so young, but his control of the battlefield is so strong that even the experienced Poison Rose pales in comparison. She is going to lose. Ancestor E stared at the battlefield. Venerable Axe nodded. But Demonic Blade Monarch's strength is not enough to kill Poison Rose. Ancestor E said, It will be troublesome if he can't kill Poison Rose. This woman's strength is not her strength, but her scheming and viciousness. Back then, many men fell at her feet, and some of them still love and care for her. Then, Ancestor E looked at Venerable Axe. Why are you looking at me? The one you are talking about is not me. Venerable Axe stood tall and looked calm. Ancestor E laughed. Although that person is not you, you were not much better back then. You were so smitten. Let's not talk about the past. Venerable Axe glanced at him coldly. The giant axe on his back was about to be unsheathed with a clang. Ancestor E smiled and stopped joking. In a short time, the situation on the battlefield suddenly changed, and the balance was broken. Lin Feng's attacks flowed like mercury. Not only were they more powerful, but their rhythm was also more perfect. It was as if a song was being played. The rhythm of Ashes brought tears of chaos and boundless gravity along with it. Every flourish had its downfall. Poison Rose was completely overwhelmed by Lin Feng's aura. Her face was pale. Her warrior heart had already dissipated, and her willpower was weak. Her delicate body was like a willow catkin as she kept retreating and defending herself. Boom! It was another sharp and decisive saber strike that completely disintegrated Poison Rose's defense. Poison Rose was in great pain, accompanied by a scream that pierced the sky. A cloud of turbid black-green smoke spread out instantly, mixed with dark red blood droplets. Poison Rose seemed to have turned into a ferocious ghost. The halo on her wrist spun rapidly, breaking the space around her. Phew! A strong suction came, but it was like an endless gust of wind, making it difficult for people to get close. Trying to run? Lin Feng's eyes flashed with determination. He channeled all his energy into a thunderous saber and blasted it out, breaking apart the layers of space vortex. Poison Rose's painful voice rang out in his ears, but the space around her instantly changed. Blood splattered everywhere as Poison Rose vanished without a trace. Pinnacle true treasure? Lin Feng frowned, and the black scorpion in his hand made a sharp sound. She is lucky. Chapter 2151. Pinnacle true treasures were rare. They could only be found in the depths of the turbulent void space. However, that place was filled with danger, and there were many godly spirit realm great beings there. It was not easy to get one. Moreover, the turbulent void space was only open for a short period of time. Therefore, it was already very lucky to get a pinnacle true treasure. As for what type it was, it depended on luck. Poison Rose's pinnacle true treasure was a set of true treasures. There were two sets. The left ring was for defense, and the right ring was for attack. It was rarely used, and Poison Rose did not want to use it unless she had no other choice. Once she used it, unless it was a catastrophe, her life would not be in danger. In the northern region of God-fallen world, there was a land of white snow. A masked man in a black robe was sitting cross-legged in the air with his eyes closed. Around him, there were faintly discernible black crystal grains. The space elements seemed to be controlled by the black crystal grains, showing a strange fluctuation. Suddenly, the ring on his right hand flashed. The masked man in a black robe opened his eyes. His gaze was profound, shooting out a ray of sharp light. Rip, the space shattered and a crack was torn open. A blood-red figure fell heavily from the sky. She had a beautiful face, a hot figure, and red eyelids that were trembling slightly. Her body was covered in blood. One look and one could tell that she had experienced a fierce battle. The scariest thing was the knife wound on her back. It had pierced through her armor, and the wound was deep into her bones. It was Poison Rose, who had fought with Lin Feng before. Rose. The fierce light in the black-robed masked man's eyes instantly turned into a look of great shock. His figure was like lightning as he hurriedly caught the woman. Her hot figure was full to the touch, but the black-robed masked man didn't have the slightest bit of charm and gentleness. Poison Rose's aura was very weak. "Rose, who hurt you like this?" The masked man in a black robe was full of murderous intent. He was like a ferocious beast with his hair standing on end. His voice was trembling with coldness. A bright golden fruit appeared in his hand, and he stuffed it into Poison Rose's mouth. Suddenly, a crystal light appeared outside Poison Rose's body. "Don't worry. With me here, I will not let you die." The masked man in a black robe fed the fruit to Poison Rose. Then, he sat cross-legged facing her. Streams of vigorous energy entered Poison Rose's body. A hero of a generation had a gentle side. He was the only person on the Origin Awaken list who could challenge Yen Fag's throne, stab. He was a legendary expert who struck fear into people's hearts. Origin Awaken Continent's strongest assassin. Southern region, Serene Cage Mountain Range. The group of experts watched as the battle ended. They sighed with emotion and discussed spiritedly. The experts from Origin Awaken Continent were flabbergasted, completely dumbfounded. That was a poisonous rose. A super powerhouse ranked 4th on the Origin Awakening list was actually defeated at the hands of an unknown minor character. To Origin Awakening Continent, this was undoubtedly news on the level of a major earthquake. If one did not see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to believe. However, they had witnessed this battle with their own eyes. In terms of strength, Poison Rose was not inferior. In fact, she was even superior. But the result was Demonic Blade King Lin Feng's complete victory. This little fellow from the Milky Way's human race was already somewhat famous among the circle of Origin Awakening list experts. However, he could not compare to the lucky Bailey Jean, who had obtained the Heavenly Road's inheritance. Right now, no one would think that Bailey she would be stronger than him. Demonic Blade King Lin Feng had personally defeated Poison Rose. Moreover, it was a great victory. It was destined that his name would rise and shake Origin Awaken Continent. Lin Feng himself did not suffer any injuries. Therefore, the surrounding experts did not take the opportunity to reap the benefits and plot against him. Moreover, Poison Rose was defeated and not killed. She did not leave behind any valuable treasures. At the Serene Cage mountain range, the goal of the various experts was very clear. That was the last meteorite vortex. As for the rest, they would avoid as much as possible. They would keep a low profile and wait for an opportunity. What a pity! Lin Feng looked in the direction that Poison Rose had left. He was also helpless. Poison Rose's strength was not weak. Even if she had a pinnacle true treasure to escape, he could not stop her. However, if they continued to fight, although he could win, Poison Rose did not hesitate to risk her life. He would also have to pay a considerable price. At that time, he was afraid that some scheming experts would wait for an opportunity to make a move. Moreover, he might not be able to kill Poison Rose. This result is acceptable. Lin Feng held Black Tortoise in his hand. At least he had avenged the Patriarch and killed Dragon Emperor Jiankong. This insufferably arrogant Dragon King had been defeated by his own arrogance. He had only himself to blame for his death. Poison Rose must have been badly injured by the last slash. Lin Feng kept Black Tortoise, his eyes glinting. Although she had escaped with the help of a pinnacle true treasure, the defense of Poison Rose was very weak at the moment of her escape. She had been severely injured. Although it was not enough to kill her, it was enough to make her pay a considerable price. It would be difficult for her to recover in a short period of time. I have gained a lot from this battle. Lin Feng thought about it carefully. What he had improved the most was his saber skills. What he lacked was such an evenly matched battle to improve his comprehension of saber skills. No matter how much saber skills he practiced, it was just a theory on paper. The real strength of saber skills was in battle. The saber itself was a combat weapon. I don't think anyone will have any other ideas. Lin Feng glanced around. He had not consumed much energy. Even if someone wanted to do something, he could deal with it. I should find a quiet place to practice my saber skills. I should be able to improve more. There are still 4 years left. Soon. While the feeling of saber skills was still strong, Lin Feng quickly found a quiet place to practice. The comprehension of saber skills in battle needed to be consolidated and studied carefully. It was impossible to comprehend it every time in battle. Luck would not always be on his side, and his condition would not be so good every time. Only by turning it into his own strength would it be reliable. There is also the use of 5 changes overlapping shadows. I can be more delicate. When combined with saber skills, it will be more difficult for the opponent to guard against. Combined with Kuan Ling Heart Arrow, my current combat power is enough to defeat a mid-level god. I should recover my soul power first. Lin Feng had benefited a lot from this battle. But for the entire Serene Cage mountain range, it was not worth mentioning. The closer it was to the meteorite whirlpool, the more chaotic the Serene Cage mountain range was. There were different battles almost every day. Coupled with the unique terrain of the Serene Cage mountain range, the whole area was filled with killing intent. For the sake of the meteorite whirlpool, the experts were gradually getting impatient. The number of mid-level god experts had long exceeded 100. As for high-level god experts, there were already more than 30 of them. It was quite terrifying. One should know that there was only one high-level god expert in the entire Origin Awakened continent. 4 years passed in the blink of an eye. The phenomenon became more and more intense. The last meteorite whirlpool that the experts had been waiting for. It was about to be unearthed. Chapter 2152. Is it coming? Lin Feng, who was immersed in the saber technique, was suddenly awakened. The phenomenon had reached its peak and endless energy was gathering. It was the sign of the treasure being unearthed. But unlike the meteorite vortex, this time, the energy fell from the sky into the black haze and scattered everywhere as if it had lost its way. There were flashes of light all over the Serene Cage mountain range. It's with me. Haha, it's with me. Who said I'm unlucky? Even the heavens are on my side this time. All the experts that were hidden within the black haze felt delighted in their hearts. When they saw the flickering lights in their area, all of them were overwhelmed with excitement and were overjoyed. After all, in the hearts of every single expert, they felt that they were the true chosen ones of the heavens. Many experts, including high-level gods and mid-level gods, who had been attracted by the strange phenomenon, were in a dilemma at this time. There were so many targets. How could they find one? The Serene Cage mountain range was not big, but it was not small either. When the meteorite vortex was unearthed, it would be snatched away in the blink of an eye. It would be too late to take action by then. But now they had no clue where to start. The energy is scattered. The aura is everywhere. Lin Feng frowned slightly. No matter how strong his sensing ability was, he was in the same dilemma as the other high-level gods. Should he choose a random place and try his luck? Or should he find the place with the densest phenomenon and wait for a good opportunity? It seemed that neither was the best way for him. Lin Feng looked around. Many experts in the God-fallen world and the void turbulence were at a loss. This time, the meteorite vortex was completely different from the previous 7. There were no precedents. The serene Cage mountain range was too special. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the low-level and mid-level gods entered the spots where the light spots were, seizing the advantageous areas. They were different from the high-level gods. If they did not try their luck, they had no chance of success. Nearly 30. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Unlike the low-level and mid-level gods, most of the high-level gods chose to wait and see. This was because they had sufficient strength and were confident that they could snatch the meteorite vortex from the hands of other experts. Instead of trying his luck in the hundreds of phenomenon points, he might as well believe in his own strength. Wait for the meteorite vortex to appear, then wait for the opportunity to snatch it. But I can't be like them. Lin Feng instantly made his decision. Although he was not weak, and Ku Dun's doppelganger had already entered the high-level deity realm, it was only at the threshold of high-level deity realm. There were nearly 30 high-level deities here, and many of them had already reached the limit of high-level deity realm. Compared to them, his doppelganger, Ku Dun, was much weaker. If they were to fight head-on, it was easy to guess what the chances of success would be. Compared to these special life forms with tyrannical talents, the only thing that Origin Awakened Continent's powerhouses were stronger in was their wisdom and willpower. The same was true for him. It's easier to use intelligence than to take it by force. Lin Feng quickly sped out. He moved alone and entered deep into the endless mountain range that was covered in black haze. No matter how much he saw or sensed from afar, it was useless. It was more practical to experience it up close. Whoosh! Lin Feng's actions did not attract any attention. Countless low-level and mid-level deities were the same as him. If he did not release his doppelganger, Lin Feng was just an ordinary low-level deity. Even if he killed Dragon Emperor Jiankong and forced Poison Rose to retreat, it would not make a difference, because this level of strength was something that almost every mid-level deity could do. Whoosh! Lin Feng quickly entered deep into the black haze. He had his own unique advantage, which was the 6 Daos of darkness. At this moment, he had already entered the 100,000 origin realm in 3 of his Daos of law. The dark aura in the serene Cage mountain range was very special, but no matter how special it was, it could not be separated from the 6 Daos of darkness. It was just that the mixing of different Daos of law made it somewhat complicated. However, the essence of the 100,000 origin realm was similar in many aspects. Unlike other powerhouses who entered the black haze and were confused, the black haze was not an obstacle to Lin Feng. Instead, it was a bright light. The direction of the black haze clearly informed him of the energy fluctuations, changes, and direction. So this is the serene Cage mountain range. Lin Feng's consciousness and aura spread out through the black haze. The black haze that enveloped the entire serene Cage mountain range was like a visible labyrinth to him. There were no secrets in the entire area. However, the energy that emerged from the phenomenon was still chaotic. The serene Cage mountain range is not a labyrinth. Instead, it is formed by a special environment. The energy that emerged from the phenomenon was dispersed by the black haze. Therefore, it is not an illusion, but reality. Lin Feng carefully distinguished and became one with his body and mind. However, the more he understood, the more he felt that the matter was troublesome, because the black haze was constantly changing and advancing. Therefore, the location of the black haze at the beginning of the phenomenon was already unclear. The only thing that could be known now was the intensity of the light spots of the phenomenon in each area. Generally speaking, the more intense the phenomenon, the higher the possibility of the origin of the meteorite vortex. Lin Feng was not sure. The phenomenon passed through the black haze and descended on the serene Cage mountain range. However, no one knew how much the black haze could disperse and how many light spots of the phenomenon would descend for the first time. The areas with more light spots of the phenomenon were also very likely to be formed by the accumulation of many phenomena. It was just that the more intense the phenomenon, the higher the possibility. However, the possibility of the places with more than 100 phenomena was higher. At most, it was less than 1%. It could be raised to 3% or 4%. The possibility of it reaching 10% was very small. After all, none of the light spots of the phenomenon were particularly prominent. If there were, those high-level gods would have swarmed over. They were not fools. If a certain area was particularly prominent, they did not need to spend too much effort to know that it was special. There was not much time left. As the phenomenon became more and more intense, the entire serene Cage mountain range shook and shook. The black haze changed even faster. In addition, a group of experts were dancing like a group of demons, causing the situation to be even more chaotic. Every single expert was burning with anxiety right now. There must be a secret. We must be able to find the trick. Lin Feng quickly weaved through the black haze, his mind solemn. He carefully observed every detail without stopping. Basically, if he could not find the pattern, the probability of him staying in the black haze was actually not much different. Boom! Rumble! The serene Cage mountain range shook violently. Pieces of soil and rocks flew out. Even the mountain range showed signs of breaking and collapsing. All the experts' hearts were in their mouths as they waited for the arrival of the last moment. Suddenly, Lin Feng's eyes sharpened. Through the black haze, he sensed the aura that he had been looking for. Chapter 2153. The aura of a dragon man. To be more precise, it was the aura of the Nether Dragon race, the leader of the serene Cage mountain range. They've really hidden it well. Lin Feng had been in the serene Cage mountain range for a few years. During this time, he had killed many Nether Dragon race experts and forcefully devoured their souls and memories. Naturally, he knew the power structure of the Nether Dragon race. The Nether Dragon race was one of the top 10 races in the God-fallen world and the strongest race in the southern region. Their leader, He was a peak high-level god. He had 2 left and right hands, He Yao, an ordinary high-level god, and He Ju, a high-level god. There were a total of 3 high-level deities. This showed how powerful the Nether Dragon race was. The giant rhinoceros race only had 1 mid-level god expert. The difference was like heaven and earth. Within the Nether Dragon race, there were as many as 27 mid-level god experts. As for ordinary and low-level god experts, there were countless of them. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed as he headed in the direction of the black haze. He didn't care about the intensity of the phenomenon. As the master of the serene Cage mountain range, you have the geographical advantage and the ability to fight for it. I don't believe you don't have any ideas. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he moved extremely quickly. Indeed, he couldn't accurately determine the location of the phenomenon, but it didn't mean that other experts couldn't. The top experts of the Nether Dragon race were much stronger and more accurate than him when it came to the phenomenon and the black haze. They definitely knew where the meteorite vortex was. However, ever since the phenomenon appeared, he hadn't seen the 3 high-level god experts of the Nether Dragon race. Right now, the experts of the Void Turbulence and the God-Fallen World covered the entire region. No one would pay attention to the 3 high-level god experts of the Nether Dragon race. However, Lin Feng had been searching for them since a long time ago. Through the black haze, although he didn't find any trace of He Yao and He Ju, he found the weak auras of He Yao and He Ju. Their auras were weak not because of injuries or concealment, but because they were covered by some special energy. Formations and restrictions. Lin Feng's mind was clear. A formation set up by 2 high-level gods was so powerful that even an ordinary high-level god would have a hard time breaking it. If it weren't for his special senses, he wouldn't have been able to sense such a weak aura. If I'm not wrong, there must be hidden light spots in the formation. However, they didn't let the other experts see them. Instead, they monopolized them. Lin Feng pursed his lips and frowned. The distance was not far. But the problem now was that even if he rushed there was nothing he could do. How could Horodun, a mere high-level deity, fight against He Yao and He Fu? Not to mention that the leader of the Nether Dragon race, He, was most likely waiting for the meteorite vortex to appear. If he were to make his guesses public, there would be no benefit. What was the difference between the meteorite vortex falling into the hands of other high gods and the Nether Dragons? At the very least, now that it's in the hands of the Nether Dragon race, I can accurately know where the meteorite vortex is. The other experts don't know much about it. Lin Feng nodded inside. He could patiently wait for an opportunity. In the first place, obtaining the meteorite vortex required intelligence. Lin Feng gradually approached the 3 experts of the Nether Dragon race. At this time, the phenomenon was extremely intense, causing the entire Serene Cage mountain range to change drastically. The experts of various factions couldn't help but start fighting. Many high-level gods began to look for target. Faster! Lin Feng was somewhat anxious. The Serene Cage mountain range wasn't small. He couldn't rush to He's location in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, judging from the current situation of the anomaly, the meteorite vortex might appear at any time. Would he make it in time? It's too late. Lin Feng's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. After closing the distance by half, the light spots of the phenomenon had reached their peak and released a dazzling light. All the energy gathered, triggering the power of heaven and earth, turning into a strange energy. In an instant, whoosh! All kinds of light flashed, and the Serene Cage mountain range shook violently. Combined with the boundless black haze, it seemed to drive away all the darkness. With a whoosh, a cloud of smoke exploded and appeared. Over there! Quick! Haha, I found it! How powerful was a high-level god's perception! The appearance of the energy was different from the light spots of the phenomenon. Although the black haze contained a lot of energy, it was not worth mentioning compared to the purest energy of heaven and earth. It could conceal and disperse the phenomenon, but it couldn't disperse the massive energy coming out of the meteorite vortex. Due to the black haze's concealment, the distance was far, and they couldn't sense it with 100% accuracy. However, the general location was already clear. It wasn't just the high-level gods. The mid-level gods nearby also had their eyes lit up. They hurried toward the target, eager to arrive earlier than the high-level gods. But it was easier said than done. In just an instant, the massive energy of heaven and earth disappeared. All the energy seemed to have dissipated in an instant along with the meteorite vortex's emergence. It came quickly and dissipated even faster. What? Damn it, who acted so quickly? Ah! Angry roars and roars sounded one after another. The entire Serene Cage mountain range was shaken, and the high-level divine spirit experts who were determined to get it were especially furious. Their faces were ashen, and their eyes were bloodshot. They had the strength, but they couldn't get it. In fact, they didn't even have the slightest chance. They got it. Compared to the high-level gods, who only knew that the meteorite vortex was taken but didn't know who took it, Lin Feng knew exactly who the meteorite vortex was. The Nether Dragon clan has set up a good trap. First, they kept a low profile and let go of the Serene Cage mountain range, but they held the core area of the Serene Cage mountain range. The various experts couldn't force them. After all, it was the Nether Dragon clan. It was no joke to provoke them. Everyone took a step back, and the Nether Dragon clan took the opportunity to set up the big picture. The group of deities retreated. It was obvious that they didn't want to fight for the vortex of meteorites. However, the 3 strongest high-level deities secretly took action. Two of them set up restrictive spells to conceal their auras and shroud the light spot of the anomaly. The strongest leader, He Mingdao, guarded the emergence point. The meteorite vortex had just emerged and was quickly collected. Once the meteorite vortex was collected, the energy of heaven and earth naturally disappeared. Oh! They're fighting. While speeding, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was the aura of high-level gods. It just so happened that there were high-level gods lying in ambush around the meteorite vortex's emergence point. My luck isn't bad. Lin Feng was delighted. If there wasn't even a single high-level god, even if he knew that the Nether Dragon clan had taken the meteorite vortex, he wouldn't be able to do anything. It was too difficult for his clone, Ku Dun, to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. But if he drove the wolf to chase the tiger, he would have an opportunity. I have to buy some time. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The divine patterns of light around him shone brightly as he executed a powerful secret art that could draw the power of heaven and earth. Double light speed. Chapter 2154. They started fighting. The three high-level gods of the Nether Dragon clan attacked at the same time. The high-level god who wanted to get a share of the loot was severely injured. But being injured was one thing, and being killed was another. How could a high-level god be killed so easily? Moreover, the battle only lasted for a short period of time before other deity stage powerhouses approached. The area was too small and the fluctuations were too great. They could almost sense the approximate location of the meteorite vortex in the vicinity of the meteorite vortex. Although they did not know whose hands the meteorite vortex had fallen into, it was almost obvious that they had found this place. Damn it! He's face was ashen. If it weren't for this damned high-level god, they wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Roar! A furious roar shook the world, and the black haze was chaotic. He Yao, and He Ju attacked first, quickly attacking the gods who had discovered them. They're just trying their luck. Lin Feng, who was traveling at double the speed of light, couldn't help but smile. The Nether Dragon race had some tricks up their sleeves, but their ability to adapt was poor. They were decisive. Did they really think that with the power of 3 experts, they could deceive everyone and kill all the martial practitioners they saw around them? Impossible. Because the battle here was so loud, it would only attract more and more experts. They could kill a few dozen, but not a few hundred. They sped forward a little more. Rumble! A loud rumble, accompanied by an earth-shaking roar, resounded throughout the serene Cage mountain range. This meteorite vortex belongs to me, he. The treasure recognizes its master. No one can fight for it. If you're stubborn, you'll be my Nether Dragon clan's enemy. We'll fight to the death. The voice reverberated. As the black haze spread, everyone in the serene Cage mountain range knew about it. Turning darkness into light? Lin Feng was surprised. It was a good idea. Since they were already exposed, they might as well do it openly. Such a roar could scare away most of the experts. After all, he alone was the limit of a high-level god. The entire Nether Dragon clan was even more powerful. Even if he didn't admit it, the other experts would spread the news. It was better to do it himself. However, such a high profile doesn't seem like the Nether Dragon race's style. Lin Feng was slightly suspicious. Based on the Nether Dragon clan's plan this time, while they were of the dragon race, they were very scheming and knew how to plan. After all, they were one of the 10 great races of the God-fallen domain, and were not ordinary. They were not like the giant rhinoceros clan who were just hot-headed. However, this roar sounded a little like the giant rhinoceros clan. After all, this was a double-edged sword. It could scare away some small fries, but at the same time, it could also attract more high-level god-level experts whose strength was not inferior to the Nether Dragon clan. These experts were the ones who were truly qualified to compete for the meteorite vortex. Just as he was puzzled, suddenly, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The aura he sensed split into 3 and actually rushed in 3 different directions. Other experts might not be able to sense it, but Lin Feng had been locking onto he and the other two dragonmen. How could he not know what they were doing? After a fierce battle, He Yao and He Ju actually separated. What did he mean? Splitting into three to reduce the threat? Lin Feng's eyebrows knitted together as he slowed down. However, he did not know which direction to pursue at the moment. One was rushing toward the depths of the Serene Cage mountain range, one was rushing toward the core area of the Serene Cage mountain range, and the other was directly rushing out in different directions. What were they doing? They had just loudly declared their sovereignty, and now they were sneakily splitting into three to attack from two directions? They don't want to burden He Yao and He Ju. Even if something happens to He, at least the Nether Dragon clan has He Yao and He Ju to preserve the clan's strength? Lin Feng nodded slightly. This was very likely. After all, a threat was a threat. There were more than 30 high-level god-level experts at the moment, and this was the last meteorite vortex. Everyone's eyes were red, and no one would give in easily. Or maybe they're abandoning the rook to save the king. Letting He Yao and He Ju disperse some of the experts to reduce the pressure on He. The possibility of this happening was relatively small. After all, He was the leader of the clan, and He Yao and He Ju were the pillars of the clan. How could they abandon them just like that? Instead, it's more likely that they're sacrificing themselves and turning themselves into bait. Lin Feng vaguely understood He's thoughts. He's roar just now had not only eliminated some small problems, but also focused all the hatred on himself. It was killing two birds with one stone. If it was any other expert, they would be thinking the same thing. The meteorite vortex was near He Ju. But what if he placed the meteorite vortex on either He Yao or He Ju? He Yao and He Ju are both high-level god-level experts, and they have strong self-defense abilities. Especially He Yao, he's an ordinary high-level god-level expert. Lin Feng thought to himself, plus, all the hatred has been drawn away by He, so the threat to them will naturally be reduced. With their speed, they'll be able to leave this battlefield very quickly. At that time, He won't need to abandon the rook to save the king. As long as he can drag it out long enough, he'll be able to save himself at the end. All his doubts were cleared up. The Nether Dragon clan was indeed not stupid. This kind of deception was very smooth. Although it was an old trick, the key was that it was practical. The other experts couldn't lock onto their auras, so they didn't know what was going on. Especially He's roar, it made the other experts believe that the meteorite vortex was in his hands. After all, no one would be so stupid as to admit that they didn't have the meteorite vortex. It was almost the same as the Nether Dragon race's strategy. The Nether Dragon race really liked to use this kind of diversion tactic. There's a chance. Lin Feng's heart was moved. When the other experts locked onto his aura had already locked onto He Yao and He Ju. The two Dragonians were retreating in different directions. He Ju ran toward the depths of the Serene Cage mountain range, while He Yao ran out of the Serene Cage mountain range. Which one of them has the meteorite vortex? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He quickly put himself in He's shoes. If he were He, who would he give the meteorite vortex to? He Ju is younger. He's meticulous, but his experience is still shallow. He's only a high-level god-level expert. He Yao has a steady personality and doesn't show off. He has followed He for a long time, and his strength is already that of a high-level god-level expert. If He wanted to fight, he should give the meteorite vortex to He Ju, because she was smarter. But if He was confident in his plan, he should give the meteorite vortex to He Yao, because He Yao was experienced and strong. The direction in which the two fled was also very different. It's more dangerous to go deeper into the Serene Cage mountain range. It's a dangerous place. But if I run out of the Serene Cage mountain range, as long as I leave, I'll be safe. There's an 80% chance that the meteorite vortex is in He Yao's hands. Lin Feng quickly made a judgment. Endless light shrouded him, and he erupted at twice the speed of light, heading straight for He Yao. Chapter 2155. Lin Feng was quite confident in his judgment. Even if it was not 100%, it was at least 80%. This was a gamble in itself. If he won the gamble, he would have profited. If he lost the gamble, it was not a big deal. After all, it was very likely that he would sacrifice himself. Or maybe he was extremely confident in his own strength and was not afraid of any challenge. Or maybe the serene Cage mountain range had a geographical advantage that allowed him to protect himself. There were too many possibilities. However, the meteorite vortex was on He. It would be difficult for him to snatch it. Firstly, the entire serene Cage mountain range was his competitor. Secondly, He was much stronger than the clone Ku Dun. He Yao was different. Although the clone Ku Dun is not as strong as him, his defense is strong enough. Maybe there is a chance. Lin Feng had his own plans. He might not have a chance if it was 1-on-1, but it might be 2-on-1. Now, his main body's combat power had almost reached the threshold of a mid-level god. When he used the second level of the Kunling Heart Arrow, the power was enough to reach the limit of a mid-level god. This power was enough to pose a threat to a high-level god. Moreover, the situation changed very quickly. There might be a way to deal with it. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up slightly. He sensed that there was another aura chasing after He Yao. What was more interesting was that, like him, he was only a low-level god. He was closer to He Yao than he was, and his speed was faster than the speed of light. To catch up with He Yao, his speed must be faster than the speed of light. He seems to be very relaxed. He should have some special treasure. Lin Feng thought. What really made him curious was that this young man had fiery red curly hair. He did not look like a special life form from the turbulent void or the god-fallen world. Because he had a human aura. A low-level god-human? Origin awakened continent? Lin Feng muttered. He could not match this young man with fiery red curly hair. Not to mention the top 10 of the Origin Awakened list, there was no such person among all the strong people on the list. Either he is a strong person from the Origin Awakened continent, but like me, his strength had a great breakthrough in this great samsara and entered the level of a god. Or he is a special life form from the turbulent void or the god-fallen world. His aura and body shape are similar to humans. He had never seen any humans that were not from the Origin Awakened continent in the chaotic void space and god-fallen world. It was possible that he was just trying to steal a leopard, but it did not mean that there were no humans in the chaotic void space and god-fallen world. Right, it might be him. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he suddenly remembered. He had once heard Fifth Sister Firefly mention that in this great samsara, an expert from the Origin Awakened continent had opened the inheritance of the heavens path and obtained a great opportunity. The last person who had opened the inheritance of the heavens path was the current first place on the Origin Awakened list, known as the strongest expert from the Origin Awakened continent, Yen Fajie. Lone Ranger, Bailey Jean. Lin Feng recalled this name. Although he didn't have any evidence, he was almost 80% sure that it was this fiery red curly-haired youth. After obtaining an inheritance, it was normal for one's strength to soar by leaps and bounds. In fact, there was no need for one to deliberately cultivate, and one's cultivation realm would soar straight up. Fifth Sister Firefly was the best example. Currently, Fifth Sister's strength had already reached the level of a deity, and what she had obtained was merely an ordinary inheritance. However, what Bailey Jean had obtained was the great inheritance of the heavens path that all the experts in the Origin Awakened continent and even the experts in the chaotic void yearned for. Even if he hadn't even stepped into the deity realm before, it was normal for him to become a novice deity realm expert now. In fact, his strength was even more than that. If he only has the strength of a novice deity realm expert, how would he dare to chase after He Yao? Lin Feng naturally knew that those who could obtain the great inheritance of the Heaven's Path must have extraordinary talent and intelligence. If he could decipher his thoughts, others could as well. After all, it wasn't difficult to decipher it. The real difficulty was to keep an eye on he from head to toe and clearly know the movements of the Netherworld Dragon Clan. Let's see what he will do. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry. With his sole ability, he had locked onto He Yao's aura. He wouldn't be able to escape. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. If he could be the oriole, there was no reason for him to foolishly rush out and be the mantis. One fled, two chased. He Yao had already discovered Bailey Jean long ago. After all, in terms of strength, Bailey Jean was only a novice deity realm expert. The gap between him and He Yao was too big. Moreover, the spatial fluctuations caused by moving faster than light were extremely huge. He couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. Lin Feng's double light speed was the same. Although it was a 100,000 origin secret technique, its essence had already changed the rules. No matter how miraculous the secret technique was, there would still be some fluctuations. However, Lin Feng was deliberately keeping a distance, so He Yao couldn't discover him. As expected, there's something fishy. Seeing that He Yao had discovered Bailey Jean but didn't kill him directly, Lin Feng knew what he was thinking. Generally, how would a high-level deity realm expert react when being chased by a novice deity realm expert? Humiliation. It was like a tiger being chased by a coyote. Wouldn't it be torn to pieces? Because he had a guilty conscience, he was afraid of being exposed. He was afraid that killing this coyote would attract more wolves or even the Wolf King. He Yao didn't make a move, and neither did Bailey Jean. The two seemed to have a tacit understanding. They quickly left the Serene Cage mountain range one after the other. They both wanted to get away from this troublesome place. Lin Feng naturally wouldn't expose them. He secretly tailed him and became the oriole. When they reached a cliff and were completely away from the Serene Cage mountain range, boom! Endless flames burned on the surface of Bailey Jin's body. It was as if he had transformed into a fire god. His aura suddenly soared from the novice deity realm limit to the mid-level deity realm limit, and it was still strengthening. Oh! Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Bailey Jean to make the first move. Hua, as the flames burned, an endless sea of fire instantly formed around them, enveloping He Yao. An octagonal restriction array flashed and turned into a domain, covering He Yao. The flames continued to strengthen and burn fiercely. It was as if the entire space was going to be burned to ashes. The aura was vast and strong. A pinnacle true treasure. Lin Feng finally understood where Bailey Jin's confidence came from. Not only did he have an inheritance that could instantly increase his combat power, but he also had a domain-type pinnacle true treasure that He Yao couldn't resist. Moreover, it was one of the stronger pinnacle true treasures. There were many ways to forcefully surpass one's level and pull one's strength closer. Domain-type true treasures were one of them. By strengthening oneself and weakening the enemy at the same time, one's strength would naturally be pulled closer. However, it's still difficult. Lin Feng slowly approached the edge of the sea of fire. If it was just one level, the situation would be very different. However, it was too difficult for Bailey Jean to surpass 2 levels. Moreover, He Yao wasn't at the threshold of high-level deity realm. He was an ordinary high-level deity realm expert. He had been at this level for a long time and had rich experience following He. In a situation where their strengths were equal, it wasn't easy to defeat him, let alone surpassing 2 levels. Unless he still has a trump card. Lin Feng floated in midair and stared at the endless sea of fire with curiosity in his eyes. Chapter 2156. Lin Feng watched from the side. He didn't go near, but he didn't go far either. Although he was the oriole, Lin Feng wouldn't be so despicable as to take advantage of others. Since that fiery red curly-haired youth was a comrade, if he obtained the meteorite vortex, Lin Feng wouldn't attack. But if he couldn't, then Lin Feng wouldn't be polite. This domain true treasure has such strong flame pressure. Lin Feng was apprehensive. Without a doubt, this was an aura of 100,000 origins. Driven by a pinnacle true treasure, this domain was strong enough to suppress He Yao. But it can't suppress me. Lin Feng floated in the air. He wasn't strong, but his realm was high. The suppression of the domain was more on the realm level. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Their attacks are so sharp. Lin Feng couldn't see the battle in the flame restriction, but he could sense it with his 6 senses. He Yao's strength was weakened by the domain true treasure, but the fiery red curly-haired youth was the opposite. With the help of the domain power, bloodline, and inheritance, he pushed his strength to the threshold of a high-level god. If he was facing another ghost dragon expert, He Yao, who was at the threshold of a high-level god, he would have a chance of winning this battle. But he was facing He Yao, who was more experienced and shrewd. Plus, he was an ordinary high-level god. Even if he was weakened, he was still barely above the threshold of a high-level god. What he's unleashing isn't his own strength, so the power will be reduced. Plus, the consumption of energy is huge. Whether it's his body or the flame domain, He Yao should be able to sense this. Lin Feng could clearly feel that He Yao was wearing down the fiery red curly-haired youth's strength at a steady pace. On the other hand, the fiery red curly-haired youth was attacking wave after wave with irresistible force. It wasn't that he didn't know his weakness, but that he had to release the arrow. If he wanted to win, he had to give it his all. Unless he has a trump card to win, this battle is over. With Lin Feng's current vision and experience, he could see through it at a glance, and this was what he wanted. If He Yao's strength was worn down, his chances of winning would be higher. Time passed by second. Lin Feng looked at the flame domain. It was like a candle, gradually exhausting its energy, and the flames gradually weakened. Before, it was difficult to sense clearly, but now, he could clearly sense the aura inside and see the battle. Everything indicated that the fiery-haired young man was already at the end of his tether. It's already very powerful. Lin Feng nodded. Even if it was him, without an avatar, Ku Dun would not be able to do what he did. After continuous battles, He Yao was not much better off. As the saying goes, if you keep defending, you are bound to lose. No matter how strong your defense is, there will be a day when it crumbles. He was also injured, and his aura was much weaker than before. However, compared to the fiery red curly-haired young man, he had retained more of his strength. "Hey brother, why aren't you helping?" Lin Feng, who was watching the show, couldn't help but be surprised and laugh involuntarily. He didn't expect that the reaction of this young man with fiery red curly hair was so sharp that he was actually able to notice him. As his gaze fell on the flame domain, Lin Feng felt relieved. The domain itself was the best detection method. It seemed that the domain of the fiery red curly-haired young man did not only include He Yao in the Sea of Fire, but also the area outside the Sea of Fire. A pinnacle true treasure was indeed extraordinary. "Why should I help you?" Lin Feng found it funny. "It's not easy for everyone to come here from Origin Awakened Continent. You help me, I will help you. We will enjoy blessings and endure difficulties together. Quick, brother, I can't hold on for much longer." The fiery red curly-haired young man's voice was panting as he said urgently, "No, I don't need your help." Lin Feng declined. "Don't, brother. Give me face. How about this, I only want one thing to kill this guy, and you can have the rest." The fiery red curly-haired young man was burning with anxiety. Lin Feng smiled. "The meteorite vortex is mine, and you can have the rest." There was a moment of silence. The fiery red curly-haired young man exploded instantly. Obviously, he also knew that his cooperation with Lin Feng had failed. Everyone had come for the meteorite vortex, so he naturally wouldn't give in. Moreover, he didn't expect Lin Feng to be of much help. Although he couldn't sense his aura, he could vaguely guess that Lin Feng was just a low-level god. Even if he had a trump card like him, how strong could he be? Stronger than him? If that was the case, he would have made a move long ago and wouldn't have needed to wait outside to reap the benefit. The fiery red curly-haired young man didn't take Lin Feng to heart. He only saw him as a choice. He could have such a choice, but if he didn't, it didn't matter. Boom! The fiery red curly-haired young man's entire body was blazing. He turned into a fireball and threw himself at He Yao. His soaring aura triggered the flame domain, completely overshadowing He Yao's aura and catching him off guard. However, He Yao wasn't easy to deal with. The strength of a high-level god was definitely not undeserved. The tyrannical bloodline of the Ghost Dragon clan and the talent of darkness appeared. He Yao, who had been hiding his strength, also erupted. Very good. Lin Feng smiled as he watched the tigers fight. What he wanted to see the most was the current situation, forcing He Yao to use all his strength. It was a real fight between the snipe and the clam. Newborn calves weren't afraid of tigers. The fiery red curly-haired young man's desire to win was very strong. Every punch was futile in an attempt to kill He Yao. He Yao also didn't give way. At this moment, if he still held back his strength, he would really die without a burial place. The Ghost Dragon clan's true body appeared. Relying on the advantage of his physical body and the control of darkness and space, he was evenly matched with the fiery red curly-haired young man. Boom! 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 Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. It was earth-shattering. In the carefree battle, the strong smell of blood spread in the air. The fiery red curly-haired young man's eyes were blazing with fighting spirit. He wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. But suddenly, F***CK. I'm not fighting anymore. The fiery red curly-haired young man shouted. Using the flame domain, his body changed continuously and quickly retreated to the edge. He Yao was slightly startled. In an instant, he glared angrily. His huge dragon body had already soared over. His dragon tail whipped out fiercely like a long whip, causing terrifying spatial tears. Pung! The fiery red curly-haired young man didn't attack. Instead, he used the inertia of the dragon tail to retreat. In the air, he changed his direction slightly and moved towards Lin Feng. He narrowed his eyes and revealed a sly smile. I'll leave it to you, boss. As his voice fell, the fiery red curly-haired young man slipped away. At this moment, He Yao's scarlet eyes had already shifted and stared straight at Lin Feng, who was blocking his path. A lowly, elementary deity human. Roar! With irresistible force, his claw slashed through Lin Feng's body. Shwa! Lin Feng's afterimages suddenly separated. Suddenly, they appeared behind He Yao. As if overlapping, an extremely powerful force surged out from Lin Feng's body. The white rhinoceros horn pierced through the sky. It was the doppelganger Ku Dun. Boom! Ku Dun heavily slammed into He Yao. Fight. Chapter 2157. What was the strongest thing about the giant rhinoceros clan? The divine light rhinoceros horn that was bestowed by the heavens. The giant rhinoceros clan was good at defense and had thick skin and flesh, but their speed and attack were a level lower. Especially their attack methods, which were very simple and crude. It was a world of difference compared to the Ghost Dragon clan. Under normal circumstances, Ku Dun's attack could not hit He Yao, but it hit the target. The brilliant energy instantly burned and exploded. Ku Dun fully unleashed the power of a high-level god. Although his attack method was simple, it did not mean that his attack power was weak. After all, Ku Dun was also a high-level god, and his physical body was his advantage. He was not inferior to the Ghost Dragon clan. In the God-fallen world, the clans that could squeeze into the top 10 in an area were not that bad. Roar! With a shrill cry, He Yao was sent flying by Ku Dun's attack. Blood splattered everywhere, and dragon scales stuck to his flesh flew everywhere. Even though he had fought with Bailey Jean for so long, he had only suffered light injuries, but this attack was painful and shocking. How could He Yao have imagined that a low-level god could unleash such an attack in an instant? His target was Bailey Jean. He attacked Lin Feng only because Lin Feng was blocking his path. He thought it would be easy, but he did not expect to fall heavily. F***ck. Amazing! Bailey Jean widened his eyes not far away. He was also shocked by the sudden appearance of Ku Dun's clone. He just could not stand Lin Feng sitting on the sidelines and watching the tigers fight. He was angry and wanted to make Lin Feng suffer, but he did not expect Lin Feng to directly attack He Yao. Now, he was in an awkward situation. At this time, he could not be thick-skinned and interfere, right? Although Bailey Jean was careless, he still had his principles. Lose. 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 Bailey Jean roared in his heart. Suddenly, he frowned again. That's not right. I can't beat that old dragon even if he loses. Scratching his head, Bailey Jean was a little conflicted. At this time, Lin Feng's attack was completely revealed. Being controlled by Horu Dun's doppelganger and Horu Dun's attacks were completely different. Horu Dun's doppelganger was now a high-level god with top-notch intelligence and consciousness. Although it was only at the threshold of a high-level god, it was close to He Yao's battle prowess when he was injured and consumed a lot of energy. The two beasts fought. They were both creatures of the god-fallen world with powerful bodies. They were truly clashing head-on. One was excellent in both offense and defense, while the other was weak in both offense and defense. Logically speaking, He Yao should have the upper hand, but that was not the case. After Lin Feng infuriated He Yao, he focused on defense. The defense of his doppelganger, Ku Dun, was abnormal. It was enough to reach the limit of a high-level god, and it could even reach the threshold of a top-tier god. Even if He Yao was at his peak state, it would be very difficult for him to deal with Ku Dun, who was one level lower. Not to mention the fact that he was using up a lot of energy. F***ck. This big white bull has such a hard shell. Bailey Jin's eyes widened as he watched Ku Dun move around in a small area. He looked like he was doing it, but he could not escape He Yao's attack. He could not help but mutter, but his movement technique is really bad. Something's wrong. This white yak is doing this on purpose. F***ck. What a shameless white yak, purposely showing flaws to that old dragon. Bailey Jean was not stupid. Although Ku Dun was attacked repeatedly, his aura did not weaken at all. He was not even injured. In an instant, Bailey Jean understood everything. His gaze fell on Lin Feng, who was waiting for an opportunity in the distance. He was envious. Where did this guy catch such a black-bellied white bull? No wonder he's so confident. He actually has such a strong trump card. But just relying on defense is not enough. That old dragon is not stupid. He will naturally run away after exhausting his energy. While muttering, Bailey Jean stared curiously at the battle. He also wanted to see what other moves this young man who was about his age had. The fierce battle continued. Both sides were already angry, especially He Yao, who had already recognized Ku Dun. The leader of the giant rhinoceros clan was just a mid-level god who was lucky enough to break through the threshold of a high-level god. How dare he sneak attack him? He couldn't swallow this anger no matter what. On the other hand, He Yao did not even glance at Lin Feng, who was watching the battle from the side. A mere low-level god was just an ant. He could kill him at any time. Continue. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He watched the clone Ku Dun and He Yao fight and did not make any moves. The only thing he could do to He Yao was the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow. The second level of the Kuan Ling Heart Arrow could reach the peak of mid-level god with his current combat strength. However, He Yao was a high-level god. If he used it now, it could only cause damage to He Yao and give the clone Ku Dun the upper hand. It was not very meaningful. What he wanted was to hit the target in one hit. The power of the first attack must be the strongest because He Yao could not expect it and could not really defend against it. His momentum was still strong, so it was not the best time to use the Kuan Ling heart arrow. He waited patiently. Lin Feng was like a hunter waiting for the moment his prey revealed a flaw. With every passing moment, the power of the clones Ku Dun and He Yao would weaken a little. Soon, Lin Feng could already feel that He Yao's soul power was gradually weakening. The long battle had consumed a lot of his soul power, and all of it was consuming his soul power. The current He Yao's soul power was almost at the mid-level god level. However, it was still not enough. What he wanted was a perfect grasp of the situation. 60%, 70%, 80% in Lin Feng's heart, the chances of success were constantly increasing. Avatar Ku Dun had taken advantage of Bailey Jean and had taken over He Yao, who had expended a lot of energy. Now, both sides were heavily injured and had gone all out. 90%. It's done. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. He could not wait for 100% because He Yao would escape before then. After spending so much effort, he would certainly not let this happen. A 90% chance was enough. Kuan Ling heart arrow, second level. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and his soul power condensed in an instant. Seizing the moment when the clone Ku Dun and He Yao were fighting fiercely, two pure soul arrows shot out and merged into one in the air. With a whoosh, they shot directly into He Yao's sea of consciousness. Bang! He Yao, who was furiously attacking, suddenly felt his head explode like a bomb. Incomparable pain assaulted him, instantly drowning him. In the next moment, the clone Ku Dun gathered all his power, and the god spirit light rhinoceros horn heavily hit He Yao's vital point. Swoosh! It was a direct hit and blood spurted wildly. What a strong will! As expected of the powerful life form of the god-fallen world. Lin Feng felt He Yao's struggle, but he would not give him any more chances. With a 90% chance of success, it was basically impossible for him to make any mistake. Swoosh! The second Kuan Ling heart arrow was shot out. It was like the last straw that broke the camel's back, destroying He Yao's remaining consciousness and truly annihilating him. The dragon body trembled, and in an instant it fell to the ground with a bang. He Yao was dead. Chapter 2158. F***CK. He's really dead? Bailey Jin's eyes widened. Originally, he had only wanted to teach this young man who stood by and watched with folded arms. Unexpectedly, he had actually killed He Yao. That was a high-level god of the Nether Dragon race. Previously, he had expended a tremendous amount of effort but was still unable to take down a super powerhouse. Now, this young man had easily killed him with just a few moves. It was too shocking. From Bailey Jin's point of view, Lin Feng had indeed only used a few moves because the one who had attacked from head to toe was the black-bellied big white bull. However, he also knew that the real fatal attack was the soul attack launched by this inconspicuous young man. Such a strong soul power, no wonder he could subdue this big white bull. Cunning, despicable, birds of a feather flock together. Bailey Jean muttered. Although he was unwilling, he could only accept reality helplessly. He wouldn't do something as shameless as killing others and snatching their treasures. Moreover, facing this black-bellied big white bull and this human youth who was proficient in the Tao of Souls, Bailey Jean himself was not confident. His pinnacle true treasure was strong, and his flame domain was tyrannical, but it was useless against soul attacks. A soul attack that could kill He Yao was at least the power of a mid-level god. This brother is really too shameless. This was Bailey Jin's final evaluation of Lin Feng. He clearly had such strong strength, but he had to watch the show from the side and wait until he and He Yao had exhausted most of their strength before attacking. My last meteorite vortex! Bailey Jean cried in his heart. Reincarnation of destiny! Pa! A light flashed in Lin Feng's hand, and he revealed a smile. It was the meteorite vortex. The Nether Dragon race really gave this meteorite vortex to Hiao. Lin Feng put away the meteorite vortex, feeling satisfied. With this meteorite vortex, he was qualified to participate in the turbulent void and even the final secret of the entire wandering planet. Although he didn't know what it was, it must be something good since everyone was fighting for it. Otherwise, why would the other experts be looking for something to do? However, since there are top-level God Realm experts in the God-fallen world, why didn't they attack? In fact, I haven't even seen a single one. Lin Feng had always had doubts in his heart. With the strength of top-notch Divine Spirit Realm experts, it would be easy for them to obtain the meteorite vortex, so why didn't they make a move? 1 or 2 meteorite vortexes were still acceptable, but 8 meteorite vortexes had been unearthed, yet not a single top-notch deity stage expert had appeared. This was a little strange. If not for his avatar Kudun, he might not have known that the God-fallen world had a top-tier God Spirit Realm expert. However, they did exist. A group of super experts who truly stood at the top of the wandering planet. Bailey Jean. Lin Feng shouted. In the distance, a young man with fiery red curly hair was mumbling. When he heard the voice, he responded reflexively, "Here. These are for you." Lin Feng pointed at Hiao's corpse. The red-haired youth nodded. The figure of the young man with fiery red curly hair flashed, and he instantly arrived in front of Lin Feng. He asked in surprise, "Brother, you know me? The new superstar who opened the great inheritance of Heaven's Road? You're so famous, who doesn't know you?" Lin Feng said with a smile. The young man with fiery red curly hair, Bailey Jean, straightened his spine when he heard this. He chuckled and said proudly, "Of course. Who doesn't know my name now? I've won successive battles and have never tasted defeat. Many God Spirit Realm experts have died at my hand." As he spoke, he waved his fist. Flames appeared everywhere, and he looked like a ferocious flaming tiger. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. This Bailey Jean was very friendly. He said casually, "It's all thanks to your help that I killed Hiao. I don't like to owe people favors. As I said before, I'll only take the meteorite vortexes. The rest is all yours." That was the Dark Dragon race. The corpse of a high-level God Spirit Realm expert was extremely precious. Its value was probably higher than a few outstanding supreme treasures. However, it wasn't of much use to Lin Feng now. If Bailey Jean hadn't exhausted Hiao's strength first, he might have been able to win, but the price might be much higher. There was also a high possibility that Hiao would escape. Of course, the worst possibility was that he would be defeated by Hiao. Everything was unknown. But now, he had won. After successfully taking the meteorite vortexes, he should at least give them some soup. "Brother, you're really generous. This is the corpse of a high-level God Spirit Realm expert. It's worth at least 2 outstanding supreme treasures." Bailey Jean circled around Hiao's corpse, his eyes shining. "The soul was killed, and the corpse is intact. It's probably worth 3 outstanding supreme treasures." Lin Feng smiled. It didn't matter if it was worth 1 pinnacle supreme treasure. "You deserve it," Lin Feng said to Bailey Jean. "All right, let's part ways here. We'll meet again if fate wills it." "Hey! Brother, wait!" Bailey Jean hurriedly shouted. Lin Feng stopped. "Is there anything else?" "Well," Bailey Jean chuckled and said shamelessly, "Brother, are you selling this meteorite vortexes? I'll trade 5 outstanding supreme treasures with you." Lin Feng pointed at Hiao's corpse. Bailey Jean was also thick-skinned. He knew what Lin Feng meant. "Then 7 outstanding supreme treasures." Seeing Lin Feng's indifferent expression, Bailey Jean gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. "Damn! A pinnacle supreme treasure. Bro, this is all I have. A pinnacle supreme treasure in exchange for the meteorite vortexes. You've made a fortune." Lin Feng smiled. "Is there anything else?" Bailey Jin's solemn face instantly relaxed. He said with a bitter face, "Brother, is there no room for negotiation?" Lin Feng said, "I only have 1 meteorite vortexes. Naturally, I can't give it to you." Bailey Jean let out a long sigh, his face full of despair. "The 18 meteorite vortexes are gone, all gone. 1 from the Emperor Star Tower, 1 from the Milky Way's human tribe, 1 from the Void Dragon tribe, 1 from the Azure Dragon King." Bailey Jean kept muttering to himself. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Lin Feng looked at Bailey Jean. He could see that he was very disappointed. Just as he was about to comfort him, his heart suddenly skipped a beat. His eyes flashed. "The Void Dragon tribe has 1 meteorite vortexes. Doesn't that mean it's on Dragon Emperor Jiankong? 4 years ago, Dragon Emperor Jiankong died in his hands. However, he was busy practicing his saber techniques that day and did not check his storage ring carefully." Whoosh, immersing his consciousness, Lin Feng directly broke through the remaining thin layer of defense and quickly scanned it. Soon, he saw an extremely familiar treasure. It was exactly the same as the meteorite vortexes he had just obtained. 2. Lin Feng could not help but laugh. There was not 1 before, but now there were 2. It was really a pleasant surprise. "Brother Bailey, do you know some secrets about the meteorite vortexes?" Lin Feng looked at Bailey Jean. He could tell a lot from his expression. It did not look like he had just lost a treasure. Combined with the fact that he had once opened a heavenly road and obtained an inheritance, there might be some secrets that he did not know. Chapter 2159. Bailey Jean snorted. "So what if it is? Why should I tell you? Brother, don't take it for granted." Lin Feng smiled. "If you tell me, maybe I'll consider selling the meteorite vortex to you." "What?" Bailey she suddenly jumped up, his eyes wide open. "Are you serious, brother?" He shook his head and looked at Lin Feng suspiciously. "Impossible. If I tell you the secret and you sell the meteorite vortex to me, what benefits will you get? That's contradictory." Bailey Jean was not stupid to be able to open the Heavenly Road's Forbidden Land inheritance. Lin Feng also knew, so he did not intend to hide it from him. A light flashed in his hand, and 2 identical meteorite vortexes appeared. The light flashed, causing Bailey Jean to almost stop breathing. He was dumbfounded. Two, swoosh. The light flashed, and Lin Feng put away the 2 meteorite vortexes. F***CK. "Brother, you're too abnormal." A group of high-level God stage powerhouses fought to the death and couldn't even get one. You, a low-level God stage powerhouse, have 2 meteorite vortexes. Bailey Jin's eyes were filled with envy. "It was luck," Lin Feng said modestly. He did not know that Dragon Emperor Jiao Kong had one. "Hee, brother, do you still mean what you said just now?" Bailey Jin's expression changed very quickly, and he instantly revealed a flattering expression. He approached Lin Feng and smiled. "That depends on how trustworthy and useful your secret is," Lin Feng said noncommittally. Bailey Jean raised his eyebrows and said, "Don't worry, brother. I'll make sure you're satisfied. I dare say that in the entire turbulent void, those who know more about the meteorite vortex than me, at most 2 hands, no, 1 hand." "Oh, is that so?" Lin Feng said. Bailey Jean nodded repeatedly. "This meteorite vortex is related to a big secret of the wandering planet. By the way, brother, you know about the wandering planet, right?" "Yes." "Amazing, brother. I only knew about it after receiving the inheritance." Bailey Jean continued to talk. Lin Feng listened carefully. Some of them were things that he knew. For example, there were a total of 18 meteorite vortexes, and 1 would appear in every small reincarnation cycle. At the end of the 10 small reincarnations, 8 meteorite vortexes would appear in the big reincarnation cycle, for a total of 18. However, he didn't know most of the information about the meteorite vortex. Lin Feng asked in surprise, "The next time the anomaly appears will be when we use the vortex of meteorites and enter the heavenly fate reincarnation?" That's right, the cycle of destiny. Bailey, she said, it's right at the center of the God-fallen world. The meteorite vortex is the key. All elites below the level of top-tier gods can use the meteorite vortex to participate in the heavenly fate reincarnation. Realization dawned on Lin Feng. That is to say, top-tier deities can directly participate in the cycle of reincarnation. Bailey, she said, that's right. I'm not sure about the specifics of the heavenly fate reincarnation, but according to the information from the inheritance, countless universe deity great beings would flock over, wanting to participate in the heavenly fate reincarnation. They would have no choice but to find a stray planet, and the chances of that are as small as cosmic dust. Lin Feng nodded. The universe was so vast, and stray planets were constantly wandering. Without a definite target, it was extremely difficult to find one. For even universe deities to covet it, the heavenly fate reincarnation must be extraordinary. Lin Feng nodded inwardly. The universe was so vast, and there were countless opportunities. However, it seems that no one has been able to completely break through the heavenly fate reincarnation, Bailey Jean added. So, the heavenly fate reincarnation still exists. No one has ever broken through? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Bailey Jean nodded. Some failed and died. Some failed and were sent away from the stray planet. Some went missing. Anyway, that's how the news spread. Every stray planet has its own heavenly fate reincarnation, waiting for the only one who can break through the heavenly fate reincarnation, the chosen one. The only one. Lin Feng exhaled softly, his expression solemn. This opportunity was probably greater than he had imagined. Stray planets had existed for countless years, and the heavenly fate reincarnation had appeared countless times. Thousands, tens of thousands, or even more, but no one had truly broken through the heavenly fate reincarnation. Interesting. Lin Feng smiled. The blood in his body seemed to be boiling, and he was full of enthusiasm. This kind of challenge made one's blood boil the most. How long until the next phenomenon appears? Lin Feng asked. About the same time as the meteorite vortex, Bailey Jean answered. Lin Feng nodded. In other words, 500 to 800 years. It would take too long to return to the giant Rhino Valley. After all, he still had to hurry and get close to the center of the God-fallen world. It was better to go directly. In any case, he was more focused on refining the God-light rhino horn and the supreme blood-devouring horn to hone his saber technique. He did not necessarily need a quiet place to cultivate. It might be better to hone his combat strength before the heavenly fate reincarnation began. Brother, how about these secrets? I've already told you everything. Bailey Jean looked at Lin Feng eagerly, his face full of desire. Lin Feng said, "Give me the pinnacle true treasure." Whoosh! Bailey Jean's eyes lit up. In an instant, a pitch-black pyramid-shaped strange object appeared in his hand. Darkness-type pinnacle true treasure. I obtained this by chance in the forbidden land of Heaven Road. Meteorite vortex. Lin Feng did not hesitate to trade with Bailey Jean. Even if it was other pinnacle true treasures, he would trade. After all, he had promised Bailey Jean before. Darkness-type pinnacle true treasure was even better. There was no time now. Lin Feng put away the pinnacle true treasure and said to Bailey Jean, "More people, more companions. Let's go to the center of the God-fallen world together?" "Okay, brother." Bailey Jean was overjoyed. He hid the meteorite vortex with a happy expression. This feeling of regaining what he had lost was simply too great for him. Although he had lost a pinnacle true treasure, it was not of much help to Bailey Jean. So be it. The meteorite vortex only appeared once in 100 reincarnations. It was the key to the reincarnation of destiny. Since the heavens allowed me to open the inheritance of the forbidden land of Heaven Road and let me obtain the meteorite vortex by chance, there must be some kind of arrangement. I must be destined to be the only person this wandering planet is waiting for. Bailey Jin's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Lin Feng saw this and could guess what he was thinking. He did not care. What was his would always be his. The battle for the reincarnation of destiny was bound to be very intense. His strength was still not enough, especially when compared to those high-level God Spirit experts or even top-tier God Spirit experts. Pulling Bailey Jin along could be considered a kindred spirit. Moreover, he obviously knew much more about the reincarnation of destiny than he did. With him as a companion, all aspects would be balanced. The reincarnation of destiny is waiting for the only one. Lin Feng looked into the distance, his eyes deep. Everyone wished that they were the true prodigy of the heavens. He was no exception. Chapter 2160. In the northern region of the God-fallen world, the land of white snow, countless snowflakes fell, but they could not get close to the man in the black robe. Shocking dark energy appeared around him, and a suffocating aura condensed in the air. Black crystals floated in the air, forming a thin shield. In front of him, there was a blood-red figure. She had a devilish figure and a beautiful face, but her aura was extremely weak. Poison Rose. She had been injured, but her breathing had calmed down. Opening her eyes weakly, Poison Rose looked at the black-robed man who had exhausted a lot of energy and whose face was a little pale. Her gaze was a little complicated. "Thank you. You don't have to be so formal with me," the man in the black robe said. His voice was hoarse, as if he had used up a lot of energy. Raising his head, there was a faint scar on his face. His nose bridge was extremely high, like an eagle's. His eyes faintly emitted a murderous aura, but it was accumulated over many years. This was the legendary figure of Origin Awakened Continent, the top assassin, Thorn. Hee. Poison Rose laughed dryly and stopped looking at Thorn. Poison Rose did not know how to face this man who had always been devoted to her. Even when she formed the deadly extreme to compete with Thorn, Thorn was not angry at her at all. He even showed mercy. "Who hurt you?" Thorn asked coldly. Poison Rose hesitated and said, "Demonic Blade King. I have heard of him." Thorn nodded, and his voice suddenly turned cold. "Who dares to touch my woman? You are courting death." His eyes were filled with murderous aura, which made people shudder. Those who were familiar with Thorn knew that he was really angry. Poison Rose saw this and felt warmth in her heart. She knew Thorn's personality. He would definitely kill Demonic Blade King to avenge her. She also knew Thorn's feelings for her, but she could not accept it. In the end, they had different goals. "Take this." Taking off the Pinnacle True Treasure bracelet on her left hand, Poison Rose handed it to Thorn. Thorn was stunned and did not take it. He just looked at her. Dragon Emperor Jiankong is dead, and the meteorite vortex is in the hands of Demonic Blade King. I have nothing more to ask for. Moreover, I've also thought it through. With my current strength, even if I have the meteorite vortex, it might not be a good thing. I might as well go back and be the leader of Fatal Limit. This universe-hallowed rings was obtained by both of us back then. However, a Pinnacle True Treasure has been split into two, and only 1/10 of its power is left. Today, I return it to you in perfect condition. I believe that you will definitely be able to restore it to its former glory. Consider it as repaying you for saving my life. Poison Rose said, but she did not dare to look at Thorn. Suddenly, the Heaven and Earth Halcyon ring was taken away. Poison Rose's heart felt empty. She didn't know if she was disappointed or upset. She couldn't describe the feeling. Heaven and Earth harmony, its power is astonishing. See, I picked up the Heaven and Earth halos, his gaze cold. Now we need it. Rose, I will accept your kind intentions. When I return from the center of the God-fallen world, I will give you all of these universe halos. The center of the God-fallen world? Poison Rose was stunned. You have the meteorite whirlpool? Thorn smiled faintly. Have you forgotten who I am? Poison Rose was slightly taken aback when she heard this. Then, she smiled bitterly. Yes, how could she forget? The man in front of her was the #1 assassin in Origin Awakened Continent. He had never failed to get what he wanted. The corpses of the people he wanted to kill had already turned cold. God Fallen World, Southern Region. Lin Feng and Bailey Jean traveled together. They could take care of each other. They both came from Origin Awakened Continent and were close in age, so it was easy for them to get along. Most importantly, they recognized each other's strength. This was the most important thing. If their strengths were not equal, it would be difficult for them to work together. You mean he will seek revenge on me? Lin Feng said in surprise. Brother, don't you know that the ghost dragon race has a strong sense of aura? Bailey Jean looked at Lin Feng. Your body is stained with He Yao's blood and aura. It won't disappear in a short time. Once you get close, he will easily catch you. Lin Feng nodded. Sui Er smiled and said, He can't even protect himself now, right? Bailey Jean shrugged. I'm not sure, but an expert like him has the geographical advantage. Unless a top god spirit expert comes, other experts of the same level may be able to defeat him, but it will be difficult to kill him. Once He Yao dies, he will definitely sense it. When the time comes, he will not continue to fight and will force his way out. Lin Feng nodded. If a high-level god spirit wanted to break through, other experts would find it difficult to stop him, especially since the ghost dragon race was proficient in the Tao of space. He also knew that after killing He Yao and taking the meteorite vortex, he would definitely head to the center of God Fallen World and participate in the cycle of destiny. Looking at Bailey Jean and seeing his expression, Lin Feng suddenly understood and laughed. F***CK. Bailey Jean glanced at Lin Feng and pouted, his expression indignant. Don't worry, Brother Bailey. I'll take responsibility for what I did. Since I killed He Yao, I won't let you take the blame, Lin Feng said. If I encounter He, I will take responsibility. His body was stained with He Yao's blood, but so was Bailey Jean. Therefore, even though Bailey Jean was not the one who killed He Yao, if he wanted revenge, Bailey Jean would definitely be included. Simply put, he was an undeserved disaster. Do you think that old dragon will reason with you? Bailey Jean said. Even if he's not the murderer, he's at least an accomplice. I won't be able to wash away this crime anyway, sigh. Although Bailey Jean sighed, his expression was one of indifference. It was obvious that he was very confident. Even if he was not He's match, he was very confident that he could keep his life. The limit of a high-level god spirit. Lin Feng knew He's strength very well. He was an entire level stronger than He Yao. Even if he joined forces with Bailey Jean now, they would probably not be his match. However, it was not difficult for him to keep his life. With Ku Dun's clone holding him back, it would be more than enough for him to escape with his movement technique and double lightspeed. Another enemy. Lin Feng smiled. He had gained a lot along the way, but he had also made a lot of enemies. First, it was the Destiny race, then Fatal Limit, the Void Dragon race, the Blood-Devouring Beast race, and now there was the Ghost Dragon race. But it did not matter. Since I can eliminate the Void Dragon race and Fatal Limit, I can also eliminate the Blood-Devouring Beast race and the Ghost Dragon race in the future. Lin Feng was full of confidence. Now, his main body's combat strength had barely reached the threshold of a mid-level god spirit. While refining the blood-devouring horn and divine spirit light rhinoceros horn, he honed his saber technique and movement technique in actual combat while pondering the third level of the Kuan Ling heart arrow. Although this was the innate ability of the Kuan Ling race, his soul was quite strong. It was not difficult to cultivate it, and he could unleash a lot of power. If I can upgrade Kuan Ling's heart arrow to the third stage before the Heavenly Fate reincarnation appears, my combat power will be enough to reach the threshold of a high-level deity. With the help of my doppelganger Ku Dun, I'll be able to defeat ordinary high-level deities and compete with peak high-level deities. Chapter 2161. In the Destiny Realm, far away from the chaotic void space. In the destiny-defying palace, a giant purple-red destiny eye landed in the center of the palace. It was ancient and majestic. This was the core area of the destiny race, and it hid a big secret of the destiny race. Rumble, the purple-red eye of destiny shook violently, and the entire destiny world shook as if something big was about to happen. The giant destiny eye that had been hidden in the sky above the destiny realm gradually dimmed and became transparent. Sizzle! Sizzle! The spatial rift opened up, and then a violet-red figure appeared. It was a face that was handsome to the point it didn't seem human, and it carried an indescribably evil aura. His 3 eyes were bright and pure white, and the third eye was especially translucent like crystal and unfathomable. Compared to the destiny eye of an ordinary god-grade expert, it was not only much bigger, but its aura was also much stronger. Behind him was a destiny race expert dressed in monk robes. A skeleton chain hung around his neck, and his hands were clasped together in a respectful manner. Wu Yuelong greets the king. In the destiny-defying palace, Wu Yuelong, who was ranked 30th on the Origin Awakening list, knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully. Rise! The evil voice sounded, and the handsome man smiled. With a hook of his finger, an invisible force lifted Wu Yuelong up. His strength was unfathomable. Congratulations on coming out of seclusion, King! Wu Yuelong made a please gesture and sent the handsome man to the Witch King's throne that had been empty for a long time. The handsome man clasped his hands behind his back and nodded slightly. Tell me everything that happened recently. Yes, King, Wu Yuelong bowed and said. After a long time, so many died? The handsome man supported his chin with one hand, seemingly unhappy. Wu Yuelong gritted her teeth. It's all because of that demonic blade, King Lin Feng. The handsome man glanced at Wu Yuelong and said indifferently, It's no one's fault if you're not strong enough. You relied too much on the spiritual shock of death and ignored your own talent. The Destiny race is the orthodox race of the Origin Awakening continent and has existed since the Origin Awakening continent. Generation after generation, we have prospered and prospered to this day. The reincarnation of the heavens exists for us, because we are the ones who are truly destined for the heavens. Your Majesty is right, Wu Yuelong said. The handsome man closed his eyes and waved his hand, indicating for Wu Yuelong to leave. The latter bowed and left. Only the handsome man and the Destiny race expert were left in the hall. Shall we depart now, my king? Asked the Destiny race expert in monk robes. There's no rush. There's still a long way to go before the cycle of reincarnation. The handsome man said indifferently, Meng Tai, make a trip to Origin Awaken continent. After leaving for so long, I'm afraid no one remembers me, Wu Hao. It's time to rebuild the reputation of the Destiny race. Yes, Your Majesty, Meng Tai, the Destiny race's expert in monk robes, cupped his hands and said. The skeleton chain around his neck made clanking sounds. God-fallen world, southern region. Brother, where's your big white bull? Let's take it out for a walk. I haven't seen that big white bull in a long time. Why don't we call it out for a spar? Brother, don't pretend to be cool. It's boring to travel. Let's talk. I still don't know your name. That's not fair. You already know my name. Along the way, Bailey Jin's voice was heard. This guy was a chatterbox who was very talkative. However, because of this, the journey was not so boring. He was talkative and strong. F***CK. You're just a mid-level deity. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? Bailey Jin's body was burning. His iron fist wrapped in flames directly pierced through the head of a giant black-hooved tiger. Blood splattered everywhere. Lin Feng watched quietly from the side. This giant black-hooved tiger's strength was above his. He was no match for it in close combat. However, if he used the Kuan-Ling heart arrow, it would be too easy to win, so it was meaningless. With Bailey Jin's strength, anyone below the high-level deity level is no threat to him. He can even kill a high-level deity-level expert if he unleashes his full strength. Not bad. Lin Feng had a very high opinion of Bailey Jean. The inheritance he obtained from the Heavenly Road might be stronger than Yen Fa Jie, who was at the top of the Origin Awakening list. After all, the inheritance Yen Fa Jie obtained from the Heavenly Road was only in a small reincarnation, but Bailey Jean obtained it in a large reincarnation. In terms of the quality of the inheritance, his myriad Heaven Dao naturally left them far behind. However, the gap could not be widened at the moment. It was like 2 sets of saber moves. One set only had 5 moves. It was easy to cultivate, but its power was ordinary. The other set had 50 moves. It was difficult to cultivate, but its power was powerful. Bailey Jean cultivated the first set of saber moves. He had already cultivated to the 4th and 5th move. On the other hand, he cultivated the second set of saber technique. He had only cultivated to the 1st and 2nd moves. However, the upper limit of the Heavenly Road's inheritance is a peak deity level expert at most. Lin Feng now knew very well who left behind the Heavenly Road's inheritance, those experts who were preparing to challenge the reincarnation of destiny. Some were high-level deity-level experts, and some were top-notch deity-level experts. The strongest was only a peak deity-level expert. It was impossible for them to surpass a deity-level expert because the reincarnation of destiny did not allow it. How is it, brother? Aren't I powerful? Bailey Jean appeared in front of Lin Feng, waved his fist, and chuckled. Powerful? Lin Feng praised. If you have a pair of peak true treasure boxing gloves, your attack power will increase by a lot. Bailey Jean sighed softly. There's nothing I can do. Although the senior who left the inheritance has boxing gloves, he needs to use them himself. He only left a useless dark peak true treasure for me. By the way, brother, why aren't you compatible yet? There's no hurry. Lin Feng smiled. He could not tell Bailey Jean that he was refining the divine light rhinoceros horn. He was afraid that the two would conflict. Oh, hurry up and integrate it and increase your strength. Bailey Jean raised his eyebrows. You're dragging me down now. Lin Feng could not help but laugh. Yes, yes. Bailey Jean's expression suddenly became serious. To be honest, brother, participating in the reincarnation of destiny tests the strength of every expert. Your big white bull might not be of any use. Lin Feng was deep in thought. Even so, Ku Dun was his clone, so it should be different. When the time comes, we'll help each other. Brother, the two of us are probably the weakest among all participating in the reincarnation of destiny, Bailey Jean said. There's only one reincarnation of destiny. Aren't you afraid that I'll fight with you? Bailey Jean curled his lips. Fight for nothing. Since the birth of the wandering planet, there have been thousands of reincarnations of destiny, and no warrior has ever passed. Brother, if you can pass, I'll accept it. I know my limits. I'll pass as much as I can and earn as much as I can. Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, many top-notch deity-level experts and even peak deity-level experts had participated in the reincarnation of destiny, but none had passed. One could imagine how difficult the reincarnation of destiny was. No matter how talented one was, it was difficult to be confident. This was a true, heavenly mote.